There you go.
You hear that quality velvety voice coming from this man over here. It's $50 a word, I believe, is the price.
Yeah, indeed.
The original singer of Island Boy as well.
Island Boy, he's trying to make it. An island boy.
I had that in my head for fucking days.
It doesn't leave. Once it takes
song.
up residence, it doesn't go.
It's some TikTok 20-second thing.
I purposely dropped. I was going to come in with a beat, and I'm like, no. I'll stick.
There wasn't a beat to be had.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us on the Daily Combat Podcast once again. We're joined by Rich Warner. Now, Rich is a DFC announcer, commentator, and
there's only one announcer for DFC, Mr. Stockbridge.
Oh, well, I make some noise in the middle of the ring occasionally, but but making all the noise on the microphone that the rest of the world can hear is you. And Rich, we just got through DFC 12, a massive event at the Adelaide Oval, and you had a few little stories, some behind-the-scenes tales to share.
I'm not going to tell any of them, Dave. They're too secretive.
Oh my God.
Very, very top secret stories.
Maybe well, that's okay. Nobody listens to the Daily Combat Podcast anyway, so you're safe here. This is a safe space.
Yeah, we're going to tell all the dirt.
Yeah, so there were some amazing fights, and it was a great card. And one put together at a time of great uncertainty. It's so difficult to match up interstate fighters with local fighters, and also the event itself was postponed several times before we actually got around to the final day. And then, at the last hurdle, further restrictions come into place and greater uncertainty around vaccinations and all of that type of thing. But in the midst of all of that, we had a fantastic event, and one that had several highlights and some behind-the-scenes stories, as it turns out, as well.
Oh, it's always a bit going on behind the back. Those closed back doors that no one gets to see. You see the action, but then there's 99% of the stories before and after the fight. I reckon you get to see this intense battle.
Yeah,
but the preparation for battle, and there's a lot of games that go on. There's a lot of stuff that happens after, maybe rematches in the making, and politics.
Yeah,
bit of love and hate.
Thrill and agony.
Bit of good love and hate. Thrill and agony, yeah.
So for an event like that, or a card like that, there's obviously some fighters on debut. We had a title fight at the end of the night, and a mix of very experienced campaigners and people having their very first fight. How is it that you go about preparing for a night like that?
Yeah, well, I'm sneaky, Dave. I try and prepare in the sneakiest ways, mate. I'll get a fighter.
There's a mist that came over.
I'll be talking to his grandma, his kids, his wife, his next door neighbour about what's underneath his bed.
Yep.
I start with social media, all that sort of stuff.
You do a little bit of stalking. So it's part a professional investigator here and part commentator, right?
Psychotic, to be honest. Yeah.
But you're obviously a fan, so you're a fan before you get to it. And and with some of these faces, you've obviously already called some fights of theirs over the years or done a little bit of research.
Well, some of these fighters, like David Butt, the dude from Tasmania, is not originally from Tasmania, from Queensland.
Right,
originally.
Okay.
Back in the day, we, 9, 10, 11 years ago, went to Queensland a number of times with a particular club I was working with, and we got to know a lot of these Queensland fighters. And Queensland MMA, if you know,
shark fights and
like back in the day of when MMA really started off in Australia, Queensland was the leader. They had quite a few different promotions all competing against each other before a lot of states were even sanctioned.
Right.
Especially us over in South Australia. We were
still with a headgear and no strikes on the ground. And
Dude.
No strikes standing up either.
Even now, like
and kicks only if you have to.
No grappling.
If you're a kid, say, and you like MMA and you're training that and you want to compete, you want to be in Queensland because they've got a lot of great amateur competitions like Fight World Cup and, great for kids, to get some real good, healthy and safe experience in a great environment.
So was it in Queensland that David got his nickname?
Yeah, the Punisher.
The Punisher, but...
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not going to say it. It's okay. You got to be careful of how you...
Yeah. I've just realised someone's talking about
that. I've actually never even thought of that, but I get why you have.
It's an interesting nickname. Which I'd imagine you'd only get if you spent time in Queensland.
I'm really scared of actually ever seeing him again after making that comment.
I did not want to get it wrong.
we know why you called the Punisher, Dave. That dude, like, I remember him from like 11, 12 years ago, having a burger with him, and another great MMA star at the time, Beck Hyatt.
Oh yeah,
Remember Beck Hyatt?
Yeah, it's in the UFC. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she was bare knuckle fighting now.
Queensland fighter, 11 years ago, having a McDonald's burger at the end of the fight. Those sort of memories, and then you follow them over the time, and then to have him come on the card and see him again, and dude, you're a UFC fan, and you get so much coverage that you can get into, and so many things you can watch, but when it's here in South Australia and you get to interview and talk to the fighters and stalk their missus, that's great. Nothing sus or weird.
Nothing at all. So with somebody like David that you've got some kind of history with, I guess, in those pre-fight interviews where you're getting some of the the background on the fighter, it's a little bit easier already, is it? Or is it different because of the tyranny of distance and time and things that have changed?
Tyranny of distance.
Trepidation of the similitude.
You'll
with
need
the,
to pause and have a big breath after those two words.
it's a $5 word, that one.
Yeah. To be honest, it makes it easier because you already have 30 questions that are burning because you know the stories. David Butt. Talking to David Butt, we both nearly had tears in our eyes.
Oh, really? At the end of that? Wow.
There's 2 or 3 other
terrible
fighters.
fight preparation for David Butt, by the way, but nonetheless, good for you to get the emotional, aspect of
and you call the fight, and you
journey.
wish you could tell people more about some of the stuff that's really going on in the background. And you've got permission, but you just don't have the time.
Yeah,
fight happens quick, and so many things that the fighter has on their mind. They share with you. And
so for those that are perhaps listening, they might be aware that, but before a fight, you'll take the time to sit down with that fighter and have a deeper discussion about what happens in that conversation. You're learning about their strategy, what they've learned in the last few fights, what they're trying to do in the cage this time. What's your line of questioning, or does that largely vary depending on who it is that you're talking to?
No, I to be honest with you, when I've approached anybody to have a chat, my fundamental thing that's going on in my mind before I write down a series of questions that I think are important for this particular person is that old bloody fighter statement that every fighter says. They hate that week pre-fight with all of the but the dickhead interviewers asking the same questions.
Yeah.
Hey, what's different in this preparation for your fight this time?
How's your weight cut going?
Yeah. How do you plan to finish it? Oh, for fuck's sake.
I'll just give you my whole game plan so you can give it to my opponent.
Well, I'd like to finish it first round knockout. Yeah, like we all would. And so to me...
so how do you go deeper?
I want to know the specifics about the stuff that nobody knows, the things that really have gone on.
So what might be going on in their personal world, in preparation, that type of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you want to watch their fight and all of their fights previous and have your presumptions on where you think things are at with them.
Yeah.
But then, a lot of these guys like David Butt come from interstate and, you've never spoken to them before, apart from 10 years ago or whatever like that. But and you follow them in the MMA scene of Australia, that things have gone on, and he's moved into state, changed clubs, been some massive changes in terms of, in his life. And I suppose, to be honest with Dave, he made it really easy. You just ask a basic question to Dave, and it's like cracking the nut, and the fluid just comes out, and he was almost tears immediately because of how real it is for him.
Right.
And
what was affecting him at the time? Because I wouldn't imagine that would be your normal MMA fighter's reaction to the pre-fight interview, essentially.
At weigh-ins,
at weigh-ins, and so what was going on there for him? Because that was a big fight. He's it's the main event. It's for a belt. From what I understand, he hadn't fought for a couple of years. Like a lot of fighters, COVID's just taken so many fighters out of the equation for the last couple of years, and so he'd been on hiatus for the best, competing for
3 years. 3
years. And,
he hadn't fought.
And then and now all of a sudden he's coming back for a title belt with no warm up or no tune up, essentially.
That's right.
So what was at the basis of his emotional response to your questions, do you think?
It was like, I think, to be honest, it was like people talk about, just the drain walls come down or the floodgates just open. It was just a simple, that pull that little rock out that's holding it all. And it was a lot, there's a lot emotionally that people are holding in before they fight that they have to repress and control, but use as motivation to get to that point.
Yeah.
And it just weighed in. He just made his weight. He's having his drink. And I'm like, hey, man, finish your drink, and if you're keen to have a chat. He's like, he was a lovely guy, as you know. Most MMA fighters are very humble.
Yeah.
And I suppose my first question to him was more of a statement question. I wanted him to know that I knew who he was, and I'd followed him, and I'd seen him, and I'd seen where he's come from.
Yeah.
And my first question was, what the hell are you doing here?
Jeez. Put it on him right there. That's I can see that.
And why was that? Why
I made him cry.
And why was that your question? Because obviously you felt that he could have been doing anything, but he's there, and why? What led you to even pose that question in that way?
Yeah, well, Dave Butt, if you follow him, if you look at his record, he's been everywhere. He's done everything. He's at that age where you're like, okay, you're a journeyman.
Yeah,
you're never going to be number one in the UFC. I'm sorry, Dave. But that's it. And I think, there's a reality there that he knows. But I don't
So what was in it for him to prove? Or was this like a final opportunity for him to be able to get his hands on some gold?
I think it was about himself, proving something to himself. And that was just simply about respect for himself.
Yeah.
That's what that fight was about. Win, lose or draw, to stay alive in this world, he actually needed to do that camp to get him in a place where he was going to be mentally healthy moving forward.
Incredible.
You might say it's a life-saving position for him to have done that, and it absolutely was. His coach and his second coach saw him in a complete suicidal position in life. He'd actually lost everything in his life. You probably know, I think. No. Yeah, well, he lost his kids, his wife, his job, absolutely everything.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah, and
so really for him, he had fighting left.
Yeah, and so I think,
and that was the reason. That was to get up in the morning and to get a discipline.
His coach and his team actually had to have an intervention.
Wow.
Sat him
Is
down.
this during the camp or
no? There's no camp on the horizon, no fight on the horizon, not fighting again. We've got some major, mental health issues and also maybe some drug issues as well.
Yeah.
And when a guy's, hey, we're in that society where most of us, in sometimes feel like that and go through that, and we can all identify. And most MMA fighters have similar stories. But when the coach and they got together, they just said, listen, you're in a place that's really dangerous. We're fearing for you, and we think that two things are really important for you. One is to have a goal, and number two is to have good people around you. Mm-hmm. And I love that.
Yeah.
And that saved his life.
Incredible.
Ike speaking to his coach, as Ike would do as a matchmaker, tries to get, have good relationships with lots of coaches around the country for this reason, to get to know who's available and so forth. I think he was talking to his coach and had a bit of a handle on the situation that he actually needed this goal and something to present, to something to work towards. So I love that because I think that's really good for me too. I think those two things are bloody valuable.
Yeah. You know that leading into when you spoke to him at the weigh-ins, that you knew that backstory, or did that come out after?
Look, I knew some, some stories about, he moved to Tasmania and there's been some changes there, big changes, and in terms of changing clubs and working with certain people who he's not working with anymore, and big relationship fallouts and high-level people fallout. So everybody probably knows, some of these people. I don't want to mention names because I don't know enough information about anything to comment. That's fine. But, you just know that he's been through some breakups. But I didn't know about what he had to share with me.
Yeah.
And, geez, how do you respond to that,
The gravity of that moment. And I think that's when you realise that when you are commentating or announcing, or you're on the peripheral of these events, you're some small part of that big journey for those fighters and the moments that you play in that in that event are big to those people. You know, for me, it's doing it for those people that have, you know, putting it all on the line and have essentially put their life on hold for the last 8 weeks in order to prove something to themselves and to the world, but also to entertain the thousands of people that are there and the tens of thousands of people that might be online.
Yeah, it's an honour.
Oh yeah,
just to partake in you know, just honouring their sacrifice to do what they do to get in there.
Yeah.
You know.
And amongst those interviews, you know, are there any kind of lighter moments that you came across? I did look over my shoulder from time to time, and I saw some giggles going on in the background, and saw some smiles
it's
there.
It's the time of your life.
Yeah.
I just love it. I'm in Disney fucking land. You know what I'm saying? It's, man, I couldn't be happier. The only thing I could be happier is if you said, like, you know, we're going to kill Joe Rogan and you're going to be Joe Rogan. You're now in the UFC. Don't worry about DFC. Forget that, you know.
We paid Ikey out. That's fine. He's got his millions. You're all right.
Yeah,
Go
we
for
love
it,
you,
Rich.
Ikey.
Yeah.
It is the most fun time. We're laughing, joking, and you're like right there, watching the action, and so, you know, the blood from that fight, man. That fight.
Okay, man.
Yeah, for sure. So that was absolutely
The
huge.
canvas was. Oh, you took a photo after. It's on your Instagram. The canvas was like just bright red. It started out white.
They've wiped it each round before that, though. Like at the end of the first round, they wipe it. The second round, they wipe it, and then
that's probably one of the most bloodiest canvases I've ever seen.
Well, some of the things that you can't translate onto the screen, of course, is the smell of the blood. You know, that was. I think it will always remain with
You're
me.
not joking.
He's
not joking, people. He's not joking at all.
And took that breath in just as you're about to say something, you know, like that. And as I did that,
It was full on.
It went straight up into the sinuses, and I went,
full on.
Wow. Like, you get a sense as to what these guys are doing. And then as I was walking out the ring, somebody had said something like, geez, he must have had a high protein diet. I can smell it.
Wow.
It's like, you can smell the protein. That's what you're smelling, is it? And it's like, that's.
I've never seen a bloodier fight.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know how many thousand fights.
Yeah.
Probably same as you, mate. You watch
And
about everything from UFC
I'm
one,
popping
right?
Marvin Eastman. There's been a couple in some of the earlier UFCs, maybe around the 40 mark. But yeah, there was. I'm trying to think of who it was.
But continued on. There was 3 rounds. That was epic. He still didn't go down.
Yeah, it was 5-round fight, wasn't it?
I got a question for you guys. I got a question for you just on this one. I'm going to cause trouble already with this one. All right. There's so much blood going on, and there's two people I'd question. Not question in a bad way, but in a hey, I'll just put it to you.
Mm-hmm.
That fight could have been stopped due to doctor stoppage, and it could also have been stopped easily via their own corner throwing in a towel. If you're the coach, what would you have done?
Kept it going.
Yeah.
No way was they going to stop that. He's bleeding. What? It's blood. He's all right. He's still fighting. He's still being competitive.
And I think that was probably what led to that decision, because the fighters still looked active. He was cognizant. He understood what was going on.
Still competitive.
You could see in his eyes he was very competitive right through to the end. And I would say even in the last round, after a couple of big bombs come flying through, it could have gone the other way. It wouldn't have taken.
Kept throwing back, the idiot.
That's right.
There's plenty of easy way to take some easy finish, you know. Like, you choke me out of something, you know.
I love that mentality though. When somebody's like, I don't care if I'm bleeding. I don't care if my leg has fallen off. I'm trying to win this fight. And
that's tough. That's what that is.
Yeah,
that was
Diego Sanchez. There's those guys that will walk through the fires of hell to continue to fight against their opponent.
Yeah.
And it's like, broken nose. So what? I'm still fighting.
And even for his opponent to see that and think, geez, this is not working.
Well, it's like when Tyson Fury got up off the ground in that 12th round. And it was like, you're so
crazier moment. It was a crazy moment. Yeah, it's like
absolutely.
something supernatural just happened. How is he not responding to what the fuck is going on to his face?
Yeah.
Wrong, crazy shit. I can't believe they got to the end and it was okay. But geez,
so going into the night and talking to the fighters prior to, does that give you a sense as to who's going to win, who's going to lose, or does it shift where your money would go if you were going to be betting on that fight, for instance? Like, how does that go? Like, you're listening to the fighters. in your experience, and not just in this card, but in all the cards that you've gone to, do you get a strong sense as to who's going to win after that discussion?
And can you tell Dave before the fight?
Really
and how much
question.
money can I shift in the 15 minutes before the fight? So there's a two-part question, but let's go with the first part.
I don't think so.
No.
Unless the fighter's stupid and they tell you stuff that, hey, I've never done this before and I'm only good at this, which of course they don't do.
Yeah.
But you should know that anyway before you get there. And you should, to be honest, I've already got my
favourites in mind, or where you think it's going to go. Yeah.
I have my presumption, and I'm hoping that they would prove me wrong, jump out of that box that I've put them in.
Yeah.
And I'll ask questions to hope that they'll jump out of that box. Prove me wrong here. Tell me about this. Tell me about that. Excellent. What are you thinking if he does this? What's your coach's style in terms of, this particular background coming against that kind of offense?
Can we even get a little bit of a sense? Maybe can we do a little bit of a role play? Like if Matt's the fighter, it'd be a fighter on
Me a fighter.
Yeah.
When did this happen?
My name's
Jack fan.
Well, because I also think so. One of the things that in our experience of having had the podcast is because of the relatively low profile of the sport, although fastest growing in the world, and all of those things at a local level, a lot of young fighters don't get a lot of media experience. They don't get a lot of exposure to it, and as you said, there's a lot of fighters that hear the same questions all the time, and they tend to be the fighters that have a lot of the fights. But at a local level, there's a lot of young fighters that aren't sure how to navigate this particular part, the media part of the game, which is so important when they're trying to seek out sponsors, increase their profile, get the social media going, all of those things, and then then they come across you. And so, what does that kind of look like? You kind of pose some questions and seek out a response and.
Yeah, just touching on something you said on another one of your podcasts a few weeks ago.
You watched?
Well. Yeah. Big fan. Stalker in the background there. But you talked about a lot
How's
of these
my wife, by the
way? She says be home soon.
Richard's left.
A lot of these guys don't have their own athlete page and looking at sponsorship and getting things together in a great way. And as well, we should be doing better, things like this, you guys.
We should do better, you're right.
No, but you guys...
This is the budget. This is what we got. We've got a desk and Matt's got some figurines. This is what we
they
can
were
do.
$30, I would tell you.
That's Tito Ortiz.
This is the media of this particular sport that we love. It's avenues like this. It doesn't... we don't get talked about on Channel 10 and 9 and 7. So it's not mainstream media. It's things like this that the community love. But yeah, we and that will grow, of course, in time with things like this and the progression of athlete pages, and sponsorship and proper great media discussions about who these athletes are and what they're doing. And absolutely, it's a thing that's kind of just really, we're just scratching the surface, and the level of professionalism, of course, will get better,
Yeah.
It's so awesome, like watching the UFC's sort of progression through that. And, they got banned from every state, and they were in the dark ages where they couldn't get on, pay-per-views, and they were restricted from holding events in, I think, 49 out of 50 states or something. Yeah. But this guy, Tito Ortiz, was one of the big influences through that period. It was Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, those three guys that kept the fans turning up in person to the actual live gates before they were able to sort of hire Mark Ratner and then talk to the athletic commissions and come up with a plan where they could
relaunch the sport, essentially. Yeah.
And then it was like, we're a professional organisation with professional rules, and it was written by the guy who was one of the leaders of the Nevada State Athletic Commission, so it was a legitimate thing. And they were able to slowly start progressing through the states as to getting legalised. But if it wasn't for these guys that held it through that time period, and the reason that they were successful was that guys like Tito, guys like Chuck, they had...
Love the Tito. He loves the Tito.
Yeah, I do. I'm going to say
Tito is the reason that we have DFC.
So Matt, do you think it's healthy for a 40-year-old man though to have so many Tito figurines? I mean, I'm not making a judgment.
At home, by the way.
Is it healthy for a 40-year-old man to admit it?
Oh man,
who likes Tito?
The very first UFC fight I saw was Tito Ortiz versus Ken Shamrock, UFC 40.
Okay. Because we hate Shamrock more. more.
Well, no,
What a wanker that dude is, eh?
I used to love Ken Shamrock. I thought he was excellent.
Well, I didn't know what I didn't know. Never heard of him. And I saw it in the video store. And it was like, UFC, okay, what is this? And then I saw on the back, it said Ken Shamrock. And I'd heard him from wrestling, you know. And I was like, okay, Ken Shamrock. All right, well, yeah, I'll take this home and have a look. And the first fight was Robbie Lawler versus Tiki Gozan. And it was one of the most brutal knockouts. The first round, about 20 seconds in, Robbie's knocked Tiki to the floor and then run over and smashed him with a huge overhand right. I leapt off the chair. I'm like, what is this? This is insane. This was my first experience watching this thing.
I don't know what I'm watching, but it's great.
And that was the first fight. And there was 10 fights. And Tito was the main event, Ken Shamrock. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go for Shamrock because that's the only guy I've ever heard of.
They did a great press conference, Shamrock and Tito.
Kick the chair in the
chair. Kick the chair.
That's right. That's right. I'll beat you into a living death.
Chair, and Tito sat there as if nothing happened, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, no, he kicked it, and I think Dana White caught it.
Oh, that's right, he caught it with one hand.
That's right. Yeah, because Ken was making these terrible threats. I will beat you into a living death was one of them, and Tito laughed, and then Ken got angry as he does, and he's good at doing that.
Oh,
and
little angry man
kicked the chair that was on it, and it launched, and Dana very casually just. Caught it, which was awesome.
This was like the battle of Royd 1 versus Royd 2. The balloon animals, you know. It's like
that's right.
To the death.
So they had the fight,
Crazy.
and amazing fight. It was really good. Tito won 4th round TKO. I don't think
your memory, dude.
It's only for things Tito, though.
People don't even know who Tito is. What is any How do you even
Dave's going to be like, you need to cut that
Back
whole
in
Tito section.
1973, I tell you, I was watching the UFC. There was a guy, his name was Tito.
Well, this is it had an impact on me, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, yeah.
So I watched it. Yeah, 4th round. I'm pretty sure it was Ken didn't come out in the 5th, or it was.
I don't think you need this encyclopedia.
I said it was written
this is written by Matt. Yeah,
but
it's here to sell books. That's what it is.
That's right. That's right. So if you're watching,
you got some serious issues.
No. And that got me into it. And it was a DVD, and you know how on DVDs they had the little special features and stuff like that. It was the only real reason to actually buy the DVD. And they had some of the training stuff that Tito had done leading into the fight, and they had some interviews, and I was like, I like this guy. He's cool. I mean, he'd sold up a lot of his stuff, and he went and he bought a training center, former Oscar De La Hoya's training center in Big Bear, California, and he was training up there. Took this fight really seriously. Like trained 16 weeks or something for it. He's just one of those guys that has one of those insane work ethics, wants to push like to the absolute limit, throwing up every workout, just pushing. And I was like, this is, a professional athlete, like this level, because it was the first time I was watching this sport. I was like, I didn't realize there was so much to it. And then
at that moment, realised I can't be an MMA.
Yeah, well, it was still sort of underground at that point, and it was like great. And I went back and then got the back catalogue, and then sort of I think at the time I'd watched.
You go to Blockbuster.
It was
with the local deli to try and get the VHS of UFC 4.
Yeah, that's the sort of guy. That's the fan that I like. I respect that shit.
That's right. Well, I'd be bringing
my brother over there.
You'd have to go to like 3 different shops to get Have you got UFC?
Yeah, the deli, the pizza store, and the grocery. You'd have to go to,
and you'd have to buy a cornetto at each one.
Yeah, that's right.
Dude. And every time you watched it, it was amazing. It was
yeah.
Blowing my mind.
It's also something that you would have watched with your friends. Like, rarely would have you just gone. You would have got that DVD or the video, and you would have called up your mates.
You got to come and see this.
You got to watch it with me. You got to watch it with me.
I can't believe it's allowed. It's great.
Yes.
You get a bandit suit, I'm sure.
Discovering that world, and then it was like it was in. I think it had just come out of that sort of dark time or whatever, and it was Well, it was starting to get sanctioned and then starting to get some hype.
I'm just imagining what the title to this bit is. It's like before the dark times. Or
this is what happens when you get old and you're still a fan.
Yeah, that's right. You're getting me excited. That's the thing. I'm like, I want to hijack this episode. It's yours.
Or is it just, why does he love Tito so much? Maybe
just
that's
the love part. There's graphically putting that in afterwards.
There's inspiration and there's a little bit of unhealthy love.
Does your Facebook frame just have like Tito on the
I'm not even kidding. My cover photo is a stare down photo with me and Tito. Yeah, when I met him in Las Vegas, and my wife grabbed his bum. Yeah,
wait, I reckon you could take him. Tito is shit.
He got right in my face as well. It was so awesome. I mean, as a fan,
you're like 6'3", man.
Yeah, he's the same height as I am.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah. He was the same height.
Really?
Yeah.
He looks so small here.
Oh, yeah, he's tiny, yeah. Like
How big is his head? As big as Mike Turner's head?
I was excited, man. Like, you know, when you meet someone that, like, you know, is not an idol, but like somebody that you're like, I'm so excited to meet him.
Dude.
And you feel like you know them, and you know, if they knew you, it wouldn't be a surprise, because in your dreams you'd already had those conversations.
That's right. And I said, we got a photo together with him and my wife, and then I said, can we do a stare down photo? And I was like,
wait, what point did you kick your wife out of this?
well, she's a fan as well. I've said this before.
You take the camera now.
That's why you're here.
Yeah. She's a fan for different reasons, though. She did grab his bum on the way. Like, she put her arm around him, and then accidentally on the way down,
just the brush.
It just happened to cup slightly.
Wow,
which she's very
bit.
happy with. You know,
Yeah,
it's one of her greatest memories.
Some double standards of some sexual abuse going on.
What was it like being married to Matt for 50 years on her deathbed? So, well, there was that moment in Las Vegas where I did brush Tito's ass on the way through. But anyway, the other 50 years were great. Yeah.
That's right. But yeah, so sit down photo. He's got like nose to nose, and he's clenching his jaw like, and I was like,
it works. These stare downs work.
Oh man! Imagine like if you were like 5'3", he wouldn't have done that. But he's like, oh, this guy's big. Fuck you, buddy.
Absolutely. I will destroy you. Yeah.
So
you can feel that.
Yeah.
What did you do back when he's clenching and making weird noises? What did you do?
Well, we
He giggled like a girl, just as you can see.
Were you smiling, or were you like, should I clench? Should I be
half smiling, half like.
Don't want to ruin this moment.
Am I all right?
I just asked if he clenched to Tino. We all know the answers.
That is my cover photo if you look at my Facebook profile. But yeah, it's him and me sort of.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is too real.
Yeah. But getting back to what we were saying,
I don't know what we were talking about.
I don't know if there's anything.
Man,
Is there anything worth talking about?
It is. I'm getting there.
Hang
on. I'm getting there.
Okay. Oh, this is a roundabout.
It was. I'm
this
full
is
circle.
This is circling back.
That's right.
It's something to do with MMA somewhere along
it's
the way.
the Jen Psaki circle back girl.
Circle back.
That's right. We're circling back. We've come all the way through Tito. We're coming back through.
Sure did.
And
go through Tito.
The point, well, still fighting.
If Mrs. Connolly had her way, hey?
That might have been the other way around.
Does she watch these?
No. But yes, my point of all that was the growth of the sport, seeing it come through, and then
good. Like, there was a point.
Yeah. No, because like. They came through with that.
The mapping is there.
This is where we attribute all the UFC successes to Tito Ortiz. Okay.
No, the
Tito.
promotion. And the Ultimate Fighter, when that came about, and the fight that they had with Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bono that was free to air. This is one of the things I keep saying, is that if you want people to be able to see your sport, make it easy for them, make it free, make it accessible, put it in their face, and do it often, and say, here is the sport, have a look at it, because you're going to catch more people's attention than the diehards that have to pay. Even if you've got to pay $1, people won't do it. But if you're coming through those dark times, and they started getting some notoriety and some attention, and they started getting legislated in the sports, and seeing the growth, and then it was like sites, the media sites like the UFC Junkie and Sherdog and all the rest of it that were coming through. And it was like to see like, because it was 2001 or something I started watching it, and it was like 2021 now, there's 20 years, it's like there was nothing, there was no media sites, no one was covering it,
right?
And now it's like built to this point where it is legit, it's one of the biggest sports in the world. I mean, Dana White sold his portion of the UFC $330 million. So
no, I've had to sell all my tap out gear because it's not cool anymore.
As soon as I went to Kmart, that's when it got in Kmart, that's when it wasn't cool anymore.
Yeah, that's right. But it got cheap.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I still got a bit of tap out stuff at home that I'll wear.
I've got some affliction. I went the affliction route.
Hey, this is my worst thing that I'll admit to. I have it like a little drug dealer. I've got a tap out bum bag.
Oh.
That's wrong.
But they're the drug dealers you don't fuck
So
with.
many levels.
You know, when you see the tap out logo.
Yeah, you're like, whoa, look out.
Hang on.
Yeah, but
It must be meth.
It
Okay.
used to be. If you saw somebody else
My
with
meth
tap
dealer
out,
might know something.
if you saw somebody else that had those sort of shirts or that, and you'd be like, oh, that's another UFC fan. I remember I was wearing. I shouldn't. I was wearing a Theodore Ortiz t-shirt.
As you do.
Bought in Las Vegas.
Wow.
Right, yeah, sure. Not online. Anyway, at the shops, at the supermarket, and a guy came running up to me to be like, oh, did you see the fight? Did you see it on last week, the Chuck Liddell thing? And your boy got smashed. And I'm like, yes, I saw it. Thanks, mate. But it was like, because that was so rare, to see somebody else with it was like,
Yes.
that guy's into the same thing. You know, it was awesome.
And so do you feel like you're losing your specialness now that the rest of the world's caught up and now loves?
I love it. I think
MMA.
it's great. Well, I do think
No, I don't feel as special anymore.
You don't feel as special.
I love the fact that it's growing to the level it's at.
Once it goes mainstream.
That's right.
Oh, that's right.
I'm onto monster trucks now.
I'm into arm wrestling.
I'm getting into arm wrestling. Hey, we had to commentate the arm wrestling.
So let's.
I know you had better commentary.
So
but
just
we
a-
had to do this weird commentary.
Oh,
Like, okay, we're doing commentary for arm wrestling.
Yeah.
So
This is going to be challenging. Like, what do you?
You've never seen it before.
I'm not sure if you've heard.
So
our
tell us
commentary.
about tell us
hear
about
it.
your arm.
I've heard it maybe
Well-
100 times because I edit the videos.
So okay, so there is a little bit of consternation here. So at the recent DSC
I'm gonna get
event,
punished now by the Punisher.
our wonderful commentary team, were asked to do the impossible, and that is to comment on a sport that they've
I'm
got
sorry.
no idea about
That's fine,
whatsoever.
I'm kind of not, but I'm
They-
sorry
they-
because you're much bigger than me right now.
Right now,
I'm
you're
sorry because I'm
5 minutes
here
later.
and in front of you, but
yeah.
yeah.
That's it.
And knowing the great lengths that you guys go to
We
in
loved
order to essentially do your homework, to understand the intricacies of the athletes' preparation, to know the records, and even the conversations prior to the call, just sharing notes with your fellow commentators and the professionalism that goes into that, and the contrast to arm wrestling.
And then all of a sudden, arm wrestling guys jump into the cage, and then this is the crazy shit, right? We're like, okay, cool. There's going to be arm wrestling. I just had it in my head, arm wrestling. I didn't picture it quite like anything. I'm like, I don't know.
Had you ever had any exposure to arm wrestling outside of that
do you
event?
remember that? Do you remember the Sylvester Stallone movie?
Over the top.
Over the top.
Oh, yeah.
Bro,
Okay.
loved Over the Top.
Okay,
there you
so
go.
that was it.
Big fan.
That's all you needed to see.
So I'm like, I'm like in the truck, doing that.
Yeah.
That's all I got. and obviously some severe repressed
So, but-
memories of being beaten as a child by, your school bully smashing you with and probably never arm wrestling again and having twigs as arms. So it was kind of like, all right, we're going to go with this.
So I do feel for you
was
guys
crazy.
because there's this sport that's thrown in front of you, in front of thousands of people that are watching on a pay-per-view, and you're like, okay, well, I guess this is a sport. Let's holding hands with the other guy. Let's see how this goes.
The first line was, I have no idea what's going on.
And that's all you need to know right there. That's it. And from there, it was like, okay, we're going to ad-lib and see what the happens.
Yeah.
And it was crazy.
Yeah.
So what was your impression at the first time watching the sport and up close as well?
My first impression is...
Apart from what the fuck do I say next?
I was on the Viking side. I'm a
Oh,
fan
the
of
Viking. Is that
because of
the beard? Or
Of
is
course it is, guys. Come on.
You can always go for the guy that looks most like you.
That's right. That's right.
And he spoke to me as well.
Ooh,
Did he?
right.
Hey, he did this. He did the win, right?
Yeah.
And he ran around the cage like he's won an MMA fight.
Yeah.
And sometimes...
Oh, he does that even at training.
He wins training all the time.
You see in the UFC, like, they'll come over to Dana's table and they'll yell something to Dana. Viking come over to me like I'm Dana. I'm like, he's going to talk to me. And he's just done this big win. And he yelled something at his opponent mid-fight. Fight.
Yeah.
Battle.
Match.
Whatever. Yeah.
Tickle.
I said, I caught his eye and I'm like, he's running over to me and I said, what did you say? What did you say? And I think he said, he came back, he says, what did he say?
No chance.
No chance. No chance. No chance. Yeah. What a legend. Oh, I love the Viking. What a superstar. No chance.
So good.
Yeah, he was awesome. But there was other ones that were just back and forth long.
yeah.
And I learned that there's a thing called technique and some strategy here.
Yeah. That's it. Right?
It's not just about brute force or power. Oh, hey, and there's a lot of mental games going on.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big time.
100%.
Absolutely.
So and it's very much in that grip up in the moment, just getting set up, and if you get set up and your hands just slightly a little bit out or whatever, or you're not comfortable, your opponent feels just a little bit, and it can be all over in a second.
Surprise factor? Is there a thing? I noticed in one fight, and I wasn't sure if the other guy wasn't quite ready, or the guy was just too quick with too much power, or something like that. But he caught him.
Oh yeah, real quick.
Is that a thing?
Second match.
So
I know there's a lot of.
So when he went, the other guy stopped him. Do you mean, or
No,
It ended quick.
flash
It ended
pin.
quick.
Flash
It was
pin.
like as soon as they
Third
were
round.
out, boom, he got
so
him.
that was a flash pin?
Third round, berserker and sledge.
I've done a few flash pins.
top roll. Different style.
Top roll.
It was a top, yeah.
It's not
roll.
jiu-jitsu. There's a
top
whole different language.
Yeah.
That's
isn't
right,
there?
exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're saying Americana or Kimura or whatever, and it's like, okay, well, we've got top roll hook. A lot of, strangely, a lot of sexual innuendos with the strap. Of course, you got the strap on. It's good to put
So
the
you
strap
did
on.
hear my commentary there.
Mate, I heard it. Maybe
There's
I
a
was
strap.
behaving myself too. You mentioned strap like 3 times, and I'm like,
oh yeah.
at what point am I going to say something rude here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the classic lines, one of the world champions, Devin Larratt, had a match, and the commentator said, "Oh, Devin is the type of guy that will take a shower with a strap on."
I didn't say that.
Something for next time.
The thing you guys put in the cage, this was hilarious.
The table.
The table.
Yeah.
Fucking table was rocking, baby.
Yeah.
And these dudes had their legs wrapped around it.
Yeah.
Getting leverage off the legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pushing and pulling, and the table, it's not on a hard surface bolted down.
No.
Well, we didn't want to bolt in the middle of the MMA octagon.
Yeah, and it was one of the compromises for the competitors in that situation.
And I felt for you.
Yeah,
That's
I heard you
it's a
say we
little
need
bit
6 more guys in there to hold
the
this.
thing down. Yeah, it is a hard one, and with you wouldn't swap it for the spectacle.
No, that's right.
But for the athletes, that would have been another additional complication, because normally it's, although not bolted down, it's pretty steady, and or at least to the extent that a ref or the 2 refs could assist. But in that situation, we only had the 1 ref in the ring, so there wasn't a secondary
surface
ref, and you
Slippery
had
canvas.
yeah, and you had to
2 heavyweights.
yeah, and bouncing around on there, and their body weight and momentum as well as the table.
And gone 100%, and with adrenaline and a crowd watching, it's like, oh, this is big. All 4 guys were like,
They pumped?
oh man, it was amazing. The biggest thing we've had in arm wrestling, maybe in the country. It was amazing. Like, to be part of it, we were so appreciative, and to get into the octagon, my hands were trembling, man. Like,
How did you feel?
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Did you have a little Tito in your pocket?
Watch the Tito video before I went in.
For you, I'm thinking it must have been super special. I mean, you've been around for a long time in that sport. You got Stockbridge right next to
That's
you,
right.
who's calling it.
That's right.
And obviously, you can't hear us being rude in the background. Complete dicks, right? But you would have been totally pumped.
Oh, it was amazing. It was one of the best moments of my life, without a doubt. I'm serious as well.
Crowd got into it.
I'm serious. Yeah,
Crowd got into it.
1,200 people there, or whatever the final gate numbers were. But it was a big crowd. They were there for the MMA, which is fine. But we got the opportunity to showcase our sport,
Showcase
and we
another
were
combat
hearing people getting into it, and it was
Yeah,
like
dude.
when Viking was yelling in Leroy's face, and people are going, "Oh, Jesus!
Are you
like,
allowed to? All right.
whoa, hey."
There's characters, and that's what it's about, isn't it? There's not just 2 hands and one's going to go down. It's you got 2 characters, 2 different stories, and there's 2 battles, 2 different kind of techniques. Things are used, And sometimes I reckon in your spot, could be completely wrong. You could have, pretty equal strength or whatever, but the fight's already over before it started.
Sometimes.
Maybe here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone's intimidated or something. This guy's beaten me 6 times before.
Yeah.
And then
Some people
the
rise
guys
to the occasion
guys
as well.
practice. So one of the things here is that the guys actually practice together a lot. Maybe not in the week or two leading up to a big competition, but they'll practice.
something you can practice against yourself.
No, it isn't. But
In the mirror, a lot of this.
but
Does that work?
But unlike say MMA, where you wouldn't come up against
I
your
beat my
opponent.
missus regularly though.
We'll have to get you in the cage next time.
Not in arm wrestling. I just beat her.
Just beat. She's got an impressive
out. That's
record.
wrong, eh?
She's got an impressive record.
Undefeated.
Sorry, man.
But in MMA, like you wouldn't be training against, if you had a title fight, the guy 2 weeks before. No, you wouldn't be sparring with them certainly. And whereas in arm wrestling, that's not entirely unusual. That even a couple of weeks before, you'll be sparring with the person that you're about to compete with.
Yeah.
It's like a club facing itself, you know.
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
You know
almost.
each other and
Well, everybody's very close, and so everybody kind of knows each other's game. But not only that, but on the peripheral of that, you've got everybody else who knows each other's game, who are trying to help one or the other win. And then once the victory has been made, whoever might happen to win, that person who wins tells the person that they just beat how they just beaten them. And that's the custom around. Yeah. So you can't see that in any other combat sport. But they'll come together and go, well, you know how I beat you? Well, in our setup, this is what I did to you.
Yeah.
And then they'll go, oh, fuck, all right. Well,
like,
that's what he does, isn't it? Because he's like the nice guy. Hey, I've seen you guys wrestle on YouTube, guys. Stockbridge versus Hollywood here. And,
it doesn't end well for me.
There's a rematch.
Dave is the top 10 in the state now. So.
Well, yes. Yeah. Well, Matt makes up the rankings, and I think he might have just elevated me a little bit.
Oh, you won a match and you beat number 10. You're now number 10. So.
Is that what it is? You beat the man. To be the man, you got to beat the man.
Yeah, depending on who's ranked ahead of you.
Take your shirt off, Dave. Come on, brother. What a beast.
Well, I appreciate you guys actually having us on. And then, because when I saw it, because I bought the pay-per-view afterwards, I asked Ike if I could take the footage and edit, re-upload it. He said that's fine.
Oh,
and then, bought the pay-per-view. And then when I was watching it, I was like, oh, they've got commentary on it. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah. and then you
for about 10 seconds.
And then what did you say?
Know what we're doing.
And then, the first line, I have no idea what's going on. And then I'm like, oh, okay.
I think Mikey said that. He's just like, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously...
Wakey, shaky, bakey.
Wakey, shaky, bakey was
Then Mikey starts telling me, I think there's going to be some back and forth. And I'm like, are you a complete dick? I know that you are super intelligent, Mikey. Why did you just tell me and give me back and forth? I'm thinking maybe a wrist goes to the left and then it goes right and then maybe go left again, Rich. Well, what do you think's going to happen? Like, it can only go two ways.
But he covered it. He got his head around it by that stage.
It was cool. I mean, I don't have any problems because it was like, somebody commentating on something you've never seen before. And I would be the same if there was a sport they put out and it was like, here's horse riding, commentate. I don't know what's going on. But
I guess in the overall scheme of things, with the event, like for all intents and purposes, the arm wrestling was kind of taking up maybe even intermission time.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have been something that factored in the organisers' sensibility around, what would the pay-per-view look like for this part of the intermission, essentially. Yeah. But
we didn't think about it either.
No. Well, I guess it's not something that But in retrospect, though, it was a great exhibition of the sport, and for a lot of people out there, I think there's one of the things we've learnt over the last 6 or so months that we've been doing the podcast is the crossover between people that are into strength sports who love MMA but might not compete but have friends that do, and those guys, have got
love
other
it all,
friends.
man.
Yeah, there seems to be this
the medieval
kickboxing,
guys,
boxing, the medieval guys. Yeah,
February's gonna be sick,
which makes an event like Apex absolutely nuts, doesn't it?
February 26th.
February 26th.
I don't just come.
So
for the
let's
MMA.
talk about that now.
Yeah. Oh, I'm there from the start, baby.
Yeah.
I'll be putting out the chairs.
Yeah.
So for those people that are listening that might not be familiar with the Apex Sports Fest, so it was a spectacular event held earlier this year at the Nord Oval in Adelaide, and will be held there again on the 28th of February. 26th of February. Matt's got it in the diary. That's right. 26th of February at the Nord Oval, and absolutely a huge event. So thousands and thousands of people are expected to turn up, and as part of that event, people will see everything from elite level MMA, Australian MMA to K1 kickboxing, boxing. There'll be strongman, hybrid
wrestling,
football rules, I believe, is something that's being spoken about as well. Arm wrestling, the medieval guys, of course.
Is Stockbridge going to get on and do an arm wrestle in this one?
There might be one or two. I might get on there and have a bit of a
He won the beginners tournament this year.
I won the novice. I won the novice left-handed.
Yeah.
So
he's not.
Yeah, and then
Are you a lefty?
Well, no, I'm actually not. Not anymore. It's broken now.
We do both arms in the sport, and sometimes people, because Dave's obviously very strong, and sometimes people will, like their non-dominant hand sometimes becomes better than their dominant hand because they have to rely on technique. Because if you're stronger on your right, you're using strength from when you start. You're trying to beat, and you might be beating people based on strength. But your left, you can't do that. And it's like, I can't beat people with strength. And you have to learn the technique and rely on the technique to work. So over time, if you continue with it and get better and better at the technique, and your strength starts, if you've got strength there, you're going to be really good on that non-dominant hand. Whereas if you don't do that on your dominant hand and you just keep relying on strength and not the technique side of things, it's where you might not progress as quickly.
Also, I think with your dominant hand, you can be you might have underlying injuries and problems there that with the pressures of arm wrestling are revealed. And I think that was the case with me, where I could feel every ache and pain and injury that I'd ever had in my arm whenever I arm wrestled right-handed. And left-handed, it felt pretty fresh. It felt pretty good. It wasn't broken yet, but now that
it's broken.
now this one doesn't work anymore, and we've got this one strong enough, and it'll do. But yeah, the Apex Sport Fest it's going to be an absolute.
No one would have ever guessed that. Sorry, Kate, but no one would have guessed you used two hands. You guys are great. At one point, I said, because this fight was going on for ages, I said, do you reckon they might just make a deal? Can we just change arms? Because I'm pretty buggered. Bugging the right arm, we're done. For how long? A minute or two?
Oh, yeah, that's right. That match was one of the most insane matches I've ever seen. Usually the match will be like that third round that you were talking about, where it's just bang on. And you get before the, like when I call the match to start, I say ready, go. And it's like the pinned before I've said ready, go. It's like ready, and it's like that's done because the person had set up in a position that they had everything they needed straight away, and all they've got to do is just wait for the referee to start, and they just go bang. And it's like if you don't recognize what the other person's doing in the setup with your hand, you're going to get blasted like that.
Can I just jump? I got questions for me. When you're setting him up, how bloody difficult is it? To make it completely fair and solid, like proper.
Oh yeah, it's almost impossible.
Yeah,
these guys
the
on
big
the night,
point to arm wrestling is cheating as well. So this is
it's horrible. And it's really a nasty.
So you got two guys that are really trying to cheat to get the advantage, but they're trying to conceal it simultaneously.
Are they?
Hey? No one's what?
No one's limp when they're connecting. Everything I'm saying is sounding kind of like double entendres, and which hand do you use?
No, that's all right, man. That's why we're talking about it. I mean, it's fun for me because if you don't know, ask. Absolutely, there's no silly questions. It's
do you wear a glove?
Can you punch your opponent?
Honestly, no rules.
You remember that X-arm thing that came out years ago? Did you see that X-arm? Hilarious. It was like MMA and arm wrestling combined. Yeah. But it was ridiculous.
Bad for both sports.
Yeah, pretty much. Bad all around.
There's no winners in that game, was there?
It was great from a watch this.
Almost all those sports come out of Russia as well, you know.
Exactly.
Didn't Sylvester Stallone win by a kiss or something like that?
What? Oh, the movie? Yeah. Did he? I thought he put the hat on backwards, and that was the secret technique.
You get extra power.
That's right.
Yeah,
and the toothpick adds to it as well.
Yeah, well, that just makes you tougher all round. But
have you ever almost laughed, because you guys are eye to eye as well, and you're doing this, and it's intense, and you just.
I think you
in a match, you're not laughing, but at training, it's all laughing.
Yeah, it is a little bit different.
Yeah,
but I think in the match, because what I actually think what's going on in the match is that you're actually going inward because you're going for a feel. You're not always.
You're coming for a feel.
You're coming. You're coming.
It's not getting any better.
I said there's a lot of sexually.
That's right. So you've got your strap on, and
if you're a hooker,
you've probably come for the.
you're going to go deep with the grip.
I'm in the wrong spot.
One of the best comments, I don't want to interrupt you, but one of the best comments that just popped in was, we put liquid chalk on, right? It's chalk. It's instead of getting the powdered chalk, hang on, and dusting the entire octagon, it's like, we'll be kind and we'll be considerate and we'll bring liquid chalk. And so that's what we were squirting in. One of you guys goes, oh, they're putting lotion on their hands.
That's right. How can it not be sexual?
Okay, MMA fans, they're moisturising. This looks like an exfoliating
It was.
gel.
And somebody said, oh, maybe because of the friction or friction burns
Yeah, that's what we. We're like, what's going on? I'm feeling a little bit aroused. I don't know.
Great.
Should I be?
Should I feel this way? Watching two men with a strap on, holding hands in the middle of a ring.
One's a hooker, one's not. I just want to interrupt your thought from before. You were saying,
the introspection of that moment, of when you're gripped up and you're there, and because you're waiting for the referee, but you're also trying to feel that you've got something, and because a lot of these tournaments, they're very, very even. So, I shouldn't say a super match is usually very, very even. A tournament would be a different scenario where you'll come across a gamut of people that have got varying skill sets. So it's easy to just, you'll get a flash.
How many
pin or
fights
whatever.
would you have, maybe?
in a tournament? It depends on the amount of entrants. At Apex, we had three weight classes, and there was probably the under 95 kilos was the most entrants, and it might have been around 25, 30, something like that. So yeah, and it was double elimination. So if you lose, you've still got a second chance in it. So
if you're competing and to get to the end, how many times would you have to?
10, maybe 8, 9, 10, something like that.
You could do in a tournament scenario,
and that's if you win all the way through. And then the final round, in the final round, because it's double elimination. So if you're in the grand final, I guess, coming from the losers bracket, then you'd have to win twice against the person in the winner's side. So yeah, but that's why.
How gassed are they at that stage?
Well, it depends if they've had some really tough battles, and that's what Dave was saying. If your skill set is explosive and you are able to get a very fast pin, you're probably going to do really well in a tournament, as opposed to having an endurance style where you've got a war 4 or 5 times.
Hold it out and wait till they tire, and then I'll try in later. Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But in a super match scenario, it's much more even. So you know who your opponent is. You've got time to prepare. You'd have a particular game play or strategy in mind before you got there. You'd have an idea as to what you're looking for in the grip. You'd be very familiar with your opponent typically, and so there's a different mindset. So when you're in that moment, you pretty much know, in the next second, I'm going to win or lose this.
Yep.
And it's all in how you feel right there.
Brutal.
So that's why there's not so much laughing going on right then. Yeah. But in training, you can get that feel and go, oh, that feels horrible. I know I'm going to lose, but okay, it's training. Okay, there you go. And you kind of get that feeling of, where it's going to go.
I feel like a lot of rotary cuff injuries.
Not really
rotary cuff.
It's because the pressure's on the forearm and the wrist predominantly. That's where you'll find the most pressure. So it's like fingers, hand, wrist, elbow shoulder. Is all the joints is where.
I'm just thinking, like, when you get back to there, it's like,
but the pad is there, so you can only extend to about that distance. You're not getting fully extended.
So in the old days, I used to put a candle on this side and a candle on that side. Have you heard of that?
Oh yeah,
we do that at training.
Thursdays,
and then we just
it's just Dave and me. There's no table.
Yeah, in the dungeon. No strap.
Just two men holding hands around the candles.
Now close your eyes.
The strap on.
Yeah, let's change.
So
we love it. Honestly, guy, from our perspective, and I can only talk from what I know from the guys, but yeah, we love it. It's great.
It was great that you because hearing you guys talk about it on the show, and it's like I understand that you don't know the intricacies of it, but just hearing that you were watching and this is a thing.
It is entertaining, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is entertaining. sure.
Yeah. So we've got at the Apex Sports Fest, we've got more arm wrestling. We've got a whole bunch of stuff going on there. So it's going to be.
I've got 50 more for another time, I reckon.
Sorry,
mate. No,
we literally do have time.
ask anything you want to ask, man. We got no restrictions on.
All right. What is the secret food to recovery?
Turmeric.
After your first or second bout and you've gotten through, what do you?
Oh, do you mean like as a little peaker?
Like say you're in a tourney
Dr.
and you've
Pepper.
won your first two. They've been tough ones.
Yeah.
You get in the peanut butter. What do you do?
I don't think we have that side of it. I know some people use that ammonia stuff, and I haven't had a go at that. You know, the smelling salts? You know,
I thought we were talking about eating it. I'm like, what are you eating ammonia for?
I know.
It's a special
Arm wrestling is different.
Yeah.
I haven't. Have you used that at all ever? Like the smelling salt stuff?
Only for fun, just before the podcast, of course. On occasions, but I never really saw the point. I didn't understand how cleaner sinuses equaled greater PBs. I'm not sure, but
it's supposed to give you a kick.
It's the same equivalent to getting the slap before you go in the cage for MMA.
Or the cuddles from all your friends that you were just backstage with.
That's right.
3 minutes before.
Well, if you've gone through the camp with this idiot who's about to go in the cage, the best thing is to be able to slap him before he goes in there, because you've probably done the weight cut as well with him. It's a good feeling. Yeah. It's your last chance to get.
Do you remember when? Do you remember when Daniel Cormier weighed in and he weighed in heavy, and then he held the towel? Yeah, but he held the towel. He
was the first. He did. Yeah. Respected you, DC. Yeah,
got
away with it beautifully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not anymore.
No, that's right. No. Well, somebody did do it again
Last
recently.
week?
Yeah, but Daniel Cormier naked on the scale. His coach standing behind him. And he's weighed in he had to weigh in at 93. It was title fight, and he was like 93.2 or something like that. And then he's like, and they've got the towel, and he's like, he's put his body weight on the towel, and then all of a sudden, he's 93 kilos. His coach then hugs him. I'm like, you're hugging a naked man.
Get him off those scales.
he was so happy that he got the weight, and he's hugging him. And
Anything to keep the.
You realise he's naked.
Just keep moving. It's all done. We've made weight. I'm hugging him now. He's completely naked. Nothing to see.
Nothing to see here.
Made weight. We'll be good. See you later. And we all saw it. We're like, he's got his hands on the towel. You can't do that.
Yeah, that's right.
That's like 200-300 grams.
So
man.
clever.
For sure.
Absolutely. If he did it, he got away with it.
And the guys are like trying to pull that tight. Pull it real tight.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see
the vascularities coming out of the forearms.
Come on. Yeah. And the funny thing is, as you said, okay, he got away with it, but the media, a week later, we're all onto it, right? So it's not ever going to happen again. But then you see the fighters try it.
Yeah.
And who was that guy?
He was like an undercard fighter. I can't remember who it was, but he did one hand on there. He got it. Got the weight.
It was Smash.
Right. Yes.
Wasn't it?
I think so.
It was. I've come to Smash.
Right. Oh no, it wasn't Khabib.
Not Khabib, but
Khabib 2.
The other
this
one.
is the first time that Matt's memory has failed.
No, you threw me when you said the
right.
Smash. Send me a location.
Text me location. Smash.
It's gonna kill me.
Did you know Smash, SMESH, has now entered the dictionary as an absolute word?
Yeah, really?
There you go.
That's awesome.
You can look it up. I looked it up, and the definition is hilarious. It's like, come to, destroy, kill.
Pakistani
a physical response to text message.
Completely deconstruct in a violent way.
Collective noun.
Smash. I come to smash.
I smash you. Yeah.
There was a guy on the card who was a bit like that.
A bit of a smasher?
Camsat. That's it. No, not on the card.
Chimaev.
Yes.
Kamsat Chimaev.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yes. I knew I would get there.
Really entertaining. Well done. Matt's memory.
So maybe we can do a bit of a review of the of the event card. Maybe you could step us through the night, so that those people that still have their pay-per-view active, walk us through. Step us through. Step us through. Hand in hand. And strap to hand, if you will. Feel free to take out any lotion you like, and we'll go on this little path together. So
putting lotion on.
Wow. Nothing awkward.
It's chalk. I was yelling that at the screen. It's chalk.
Matt was just worried about all those Russian arm wrestlers. And, you see what they use in Australia? They use the lotion. They get no point. They don't understand. No wonder they're so easy to beat.
Comes out, you have lotion? You have any lotion? Get the lotion.
They have very, very soft hands in Australia.
Yeah, they sleep, but they feel
very
so nice.
secret too. They're success, very sneaky. Sneaky like a Russian. We got to get the lotion. I think it's
Lotion.
Johnson and Johnson.
Johnson, they seem to be the best. We like it because they're American brand and they are very reputable. If you have it, you will win the more arm wrestles. This is your problem.
Right.
You don't understand.
Never get the American muscles.
So I'd like to think of Russia right now. They're like, maybe we give this go. This is make me world champion.
And look on the Daily Combat podcast.
I think they're having sex as well. Maybe,
my skin is so soft.
we play. You see what happens?
I never felt like this before. So
Maybe that's the origin of arm wrestling.
But
That's how it started.
it's very much started. Two men wanting more exfoliation. Yes.
Wow.
Is
this the worst podcast you guys have done
Well,
so far?
there's
it's fantastic.
There's been some
And it's
really
not
good
even
ones.
me, it's you. Actually, at this stage.
Have we started yet?
I'm trying to reciprocate the crazy, but yeah.
You're
You're just a
talking
mirror.
about all the stuff that gets us excited.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I love you guys.
So you were saying just a little bit earlier and off camera that you picked every single fight on the card.
You had to say that like I'm a wanker now, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, how often would that happen? Hardly ever, I'd imagine. Like you'd be close on most of it.
Yeah,
But on this occasion,
I called every single fight, to be honest.
Now, can anybody verify? Like this, is a third-party verification. Yeah, we've got a witness. We've got
Bet 365 account.
There was a couple of close friends that
you wrote little letters to and said this is this is from me.
I said
This is from Rich. I wrote this on the.
Bet the farm.
I'll tell you, this is a bit of an inside truth, this one. Stop talking sexually, we're talking seriously for now, all right?
Okay.
You change the tone, bring it down.
Yeah.
There was actually, I spoke to my mate Dylan Opitz, who's a coach at Cardioflex and previously my jiu-jitsu coach and best friend, right? And I'm like, sometimes as a commentator, I have to go with the story that should be told for this particular fighter as an athlete, but I may know a little bit more, some other things behind the scenes about something that I don't feel it would be respectful to say about that fighter in his entrance or whilst he's fighting, because it's just not respectful. He doesn't deserve that. It's not the main highlight of what needs to be said about this person right now. That sounds a bit awkward and weird.
Yeah. But so there are some things that you know behind the scenes that might affect your belief around how the fight might play out.
Yeah,
that
so I don't
you wouldn't necessarily be sharing
on
with
the commentary. Hey, this is going to finish like this, you know.
Yeah.
And then because it just doesn't. That's not cool, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, great, you got it lucky, but that was fighter. You've just disrespected him.
exactly,
Put him in this box, and he could be completely wrong.
Here comes Gary. He's going to get choked out in the first round in 20 seconds. Anyway.
And there we go.
So if you want a cup of tea, now's the time to get one, guys. We'll see you back in 5.
Nice one, Gary.
It's always bloody Gary as well, isn't it?
Bloody Gary. Yeah, so I said to Dill, I said, mate, I better not on this podcast tell the name of the fighter, but I said, this one here, $100 to 1, rear naked choke, first round, without a doubt. And, just like, are you sure? Come on, that this is, no way.
You see the future.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, you guys are fight fans. We're all fight fans. There's some things that most of the time when we'll go to an event, a UFC event that we'll see, you'll be watching 5 fighters who you may never have seen before. And then there's 10 other fighters who've also had 10 previous fights, but you haven't seen any of their previous fights. Right. Had you have seen all of their 10 previous fights, you're going to have a much better idea of exactly how they fight, what's possibly openings, and are they a quitter? Are they tough? Are they, what's their... all of these things. But some things are obvious. We're humans, and it's hard to change a lot of things.
So if you see 2 fighters you've never seen before, right? If I said, here's a fight, they're doing the intros, the fighter intros.
And you've never seen them at all?
Yeah, and would you be able to pick the winner? Or would you have a
Based on the
pretty strong-
walkout.
Oh,
On
yeah.
the walkout?
You think I am Jesus?
I don't know, but like, would you have
Does
a pretty,
walkout
a
music
pretty
make
strong,
a difference?
I'm serious.
I lose a lot of sports bets on MMA, fellas. I'm going to tell you. I
but
got lucky
you
on
can
this
have
one,
a
but-
pretty strong inclination,
Oh, yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
just based off the way they're acting in the cage just before the
Oh,
fight.
yes.
And it's like, that guy's going to win.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, there's moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are certain moments where you take someone's soul and you can see it,
Yeah.
right? And, you know, maybe we don't all see it, but there are moments.
Yeah.
You know, if you've ever, mate, my background was jiu-jitsu, and, you know, you go into competitions and, mate, you know when you've given up and there's a moment there.
Yeah.
You know, that guy he just did this and I just couldn't, I had to tap, you know.
Yep.
That's the way it is. And, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it's seeable, but there's a million moments in a fight, and the best fighter is the one who can put them together faster.
That's what's so exciting when you see a comeback. You know, like in a fight, a guy's losing, and then for him to turn it around, it's rare. And you can feel it coming.
There's a moment.
Darren
the
Elkins,
turnaround.
like the damage Darren Elkins has done, I think 5 times or something.
Yeah.
Maybe he's doing it deliberately now. But you know, when somebody is getting pummeled
Yep.
and dominated and rocked, and it's like this guy's going down, he's going to lose, and then they turn it around, and then they start turning around, and the crowd is like, oh, and then
the crowd momentum, yeah.
keeps going, and
that collective energy,
and then to get the win,
and it's like a win for everybody.
Yeah,
It's,
I think the best fights that I've ever seen is when that happens. But instead of getting the finish, the crowd's behind this guy who's the underdog or getting beaten, and he does this crazy flurry. He gets a good, you know, flush hit.
Yeah.
The guy's rocked, and then the fighter who's been the underdog the whole time has this decision to make: do I expend all my energy going for the finish, or do I be cool? And because the momentum's changed, the crowd's suddenly pumped. They've got this extra burst of maybe 20 seconds. I've got worth of energy if I go crazy.
yeah.
Do I do it? So much strategy.
yeah.
Of course they bloody do it. They spend it, right? They spend that shit.
Adrenaline.
And they go. And then they're gassed.
Yeah.
And then the other guy now has a chance. Those, to me, are the best fights.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where this guy's completely almost gone, but no, he comes back. And then this guy. And then the crowd, you know, and that back and forth.
Yeah.
One of the best fights ever seen was in Queensland like that, where both fighters at the end couldn't really throw a punch because both were basically KO'd on their feet.
Yeah.
You know, it was crazy.
Incredible.
That's the sort of fights you want to see, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a few of those on the card at DFC 12.
Yeah, let's run through them.
Let's run through. So first fight of the evening.
Your mate.
On debutant. Yeah.
How do you say his name? This one's difficult.
Danielson, from what I understand. And I do apologise to anybody whose names.
Who are you apologising to?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. And just for that young man as well, I did ask prior to, and it was a busy room, obviously, and a little bit difficult to hear. And I perhaps heard his name as Danielson, but it was made clear to me afterwards it was Danielson or Danielson is how it's to be pronounced. And so we got Danielson Coelho, I believe. Now Coelho, what was
I thought you just said, and welcome the Karate Kid.
Danielson. But Danielson, it was interesting because he was from his own team. So he'd backed himself, and
What does that tell you?
well, it's
When you're
either
from your own team.
Well, it's either you're a genius or you might need a team. So one of those two things. But from what I understand, young fellow, boxing background, decided to throw his hat in the ring, so to speak, and to give MMA a go. And there's a lot of people that do cross over from other combat sports to make their way into MMA, and maybe underestimate the rigors of MMA and the various disciplines that are required outside of just a stand-up. And
I love the way he's politically putting this just beautifully. It's very respectful.
Yeah.
Basically saying he's a boxer without the experience of MMA going into it.
Well, I think that's pretty much
You're
what it
such
was.
an asshole.
Yeah. So he's a young boxer. And you know what? I can completely understand as well, because there's not a lot of fighting going on anywhere in Australia right now, and it's really difficult to get your name on any card.
Yeah.
And for a fighter who's
keen.
just looking for a fight, he
really
more
wanted
power to him. Yeah, absolutely. So he jumped in the ring and did that one go pretty much as you foresaw?
It did.
And what were some of the tells leading into that kind of led you to feel that way?
I suppose, to be honest, like as a commentator, I actually try not to and don't want to be one-sided. I don't want to hate one guy and love another. And if I do, I'm got it.
You got to balance.
Maybe I should try
of the
harder,
broadcast.
but I've got to try and, of course, respect fighters who you may not personally like or whatever, but and be respectful. But you got to try and tell a positive story rather than a negative one about anybody. But there was that background in trying to research Danielson a little bit that, he's, we are all from an all-round mixed martial arts background, and I think there's a certain amount of respect in the community that there's a bar, a level of, this is what we're about. We're not about one thing, we're about everything. And, old Bruce Lee said, what works? Yeah. So if you come from that one background and you think it's going to... We've seen it many, many times in lots of different competitions through Australian MMA from time to time when somebody, tries that. Most of the time it obviously doesn't work out. For this person, I tried to do research, couldn't find much on him, but there was some interesting stuff on Facebook about Danielson. I think it was at one point with the Morfett Vale Boxing Club, and some of his mates from the club I got on the club site, so... And,
you really dig deep?
Yeah. So I see what they're saying about him, and good and bad. There was both good and bad comments on the site. I'm like, this is interesting.
Ooh, juicy. We're onto something now. All right.
Yeah. Which is crazy, because, if I was fighting, I wouldn't want my mates, saying maybe bad things about me, because they were mates. And they were saying, like, half of the comments were like, dude, you're crazy, what are you doing? Where has this come from?
Yeah.
Which to me is...
it's a tell.
Some warning signals there about, hey, what's going on? And then the other half were saying, here comes the Morfett Vale McGregor.
Okay.
First round knockout.
Hey.
So it was going to be one of two ways, and I think it was going to be extreme either way. It wasn't going to be a nice even fight that went 3 rounds of possibly decision. I didn't think so. I was looking for that to finish. I thought it obviously would finish by being taken down and finished in whatever way on the ground.
Because having the striking background rather than having much of a ground game, that's how you felt it was going to go.
Why would
if you're going to fight somebody and you can beat them
box a box.
This one,
exactly, yeah.
This one didn't go that way, did it? It didn't go to the ground at all.
It didn't. Good old Dean McCrowan from Element. When I interviewing Dean, I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask you the most stupid question ever. And if I was your coach, I would be telling you to take this guy down immediately, maybe throw a big overhand right, change levels, double leg, and get top position. Maybe soften him up and get him to turn old Gracie school style to the back, rear naked choke.
UFC
Shout
2.
out Gracie.
UFC 2 style.
Watch those old Gracie videos, you know what I'm talking about, right? These guys, they don't know how to defend a rear naked choke. They don't know what it's like. They think they're going to be okay. And that's what I said to him, obviously that's what you should do. Is that what your coach has told you to do? And what are you going to do? And he goes, no, I'm not.
Huh.
I'm like, you're crazy, but good. And he stood and traded strikes. Danielson actually, the boxer actually threw some kicks and showed a little bit more than just boxing. Didn't come out with a pure boxing stance, but he did end up getting copped a few really good leg kicks.
Just didn't have the defence on the legs, so he wasn't sure how to protect himself.
You know what it's like when you copped your first ever leg kick?
It's horrible.
I'm
still recovering.
I tapped a leg kick in training. I wouldn't come back for the second round. Like, you idiot. But I'm like, no, that was brutal. You can't stand up because you're just not used to taking these. And after the first or second, it was obvious. He didn't have that poker face. The pain was, clear. And I think at one of them, he swept himself all the way around with one of the kicks and almost hit the ground. After about the 6th or 7th, he did hit the floor. It knocked him, and he could not stand. It actually was embarrassing, I think, a little bit for him that he couldn't defend that. And so it was a TKO by leg kick, which is great to see. I love it. Punishment by leg kick.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Brutal.
Absolutely. You see it coming. It's like an accumulation of strikes. Yeah. And it's like every one that lands, it's like, ooh, is this going to be the one that puts him down? And then it's like, no, but he's worse than he was a second ago.
The great thing was for us and for any fight fan is to see Dean McCrowan make that decision of I'm going to target it. You know, the fight changed from that point. As soon as he started targeting, and then it became a game. It's interesting of like
Fake upstairs,
and it was like every 2 seconds I'll throw another one. It wasn't like this 30 seconds later I'll throw the 3 other combinations and then I'll come back to it. No, it was just like, okay, you can't stand on it, bang, bang, bang.
Absolutely. Have you seen Mariusz Pudzianowski, World's Strongest Man? He got into MMA, and his very first fight, same thing. He threw a leg kick and it landed. And you see him excited, and it hurt the dude. And then he literally ran after the guy around the ring, kicking him in the leg about 15 times, like just no other strikes. Other dudes running away, and it's just leg kick, until he went down. It was like, this is hilarious, one of the best things ever. But that expression on his face when he landed it, another dude was like, oh, he's like, oh, and he's just like chasing him with leg kicks.
I think it was it Aldo who really changed the game in the UFC in terms of
with Uriah Faber.
With some dude. Did you see Uriah's legs the next day?
Yeah, I watched that video like last week again. Yeah, well, his leg was swelled up like twice the size.
Shot in the backyard with the shorts on.
Yeah, and the crutches. Yeah,
I love you, Matt. You're like it's my brother from another. Who is your
but he
brother?
didn't.
just in case.
Aldo didn't finish the fight. Sorry, I know we're gonna get through.
I know we're like 11 more fights.
I could see the look. I shut.
It's like I'm gonna be here till 11 o'clock tonight. All right. We'll make this a 10-part series.
Well, we were through the first fight as well.
So that was that.
10 to go.
Next one.
But so there were a couple of fighters on this card who only a matter of a few weeks ago were fighting in Pride's Fight Championship. So it was really interesting. And from memory, Sekou may have been one of those fighters who was back. Just a very, very quick turnaround. But just showing the hunger for these fighters to get back in the ring and cage.
Yeah, I think Jed Dale also that the next fight he was
in Queensland. Was it? No.
It could have been. It could have
been.
No,
Jed was at.
Jed Dale.
Jed Dale was at Pride.
Weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it was Queensland or Melbourne. Do apologise, I got that wrong. But he fought. He did lose, and we were really surprised at Jed losing that one because.
But it was a very even matchup, wasn't it? It wasn't
made a mistake.
Yeah.
He made a mistake in that he got taken down to the cage, and as nowadays the game's changed, everyone's going for the old Dagestani, the arms. He turned and he didn't get an overhook to defend the position, and got his back taken and TKO'd, I think, the first round. But it was all over after that little mistake. And these guys in their early careers, they make those silly little mistakes that they learn from. They get much more composed. Yeah, never make it again. Jed's got a big future, man.
Jed looked great in the ring. He looked very composed, as you said, and he seemed even coming off a very recent loss. He had his head in the ring. He looked good.
He did perfect. I thought it was perfect game plan. Perfect. Just took him out in the perfect strategy in terms of, I'm going to take the least amount of damage to finish this fight in the quickest way possible. And Sekou, I put him down on my notes as the dark horse. Got the reach, really promising in terms of the figure on him.
Yeah, tall young guy. It looked amazing. His conditioning was exceptional.
And they knew each other as well. Sekou had actually been to Cardio Flex in the past for a couple of little, and I think they'd had previous friends who fought each other and some stuff. So they'd rubbed shoulders, maybe trained a little bit together and not gotten along so well.
Really? Yeah.
I hear.
Bad blood in that one.
Yeah, so it was like, I'm going to beat you. You came to my club and then you left my club and you went to somewhere else. And that sort of stuff, Jed did what he needed to do to get that one done.
And represented Cardio Flex. Well done, Jed. And great comeback from just a few weeks ago, and shows the maturity of the young fighter in that circumstance as well, and also the acumen of the leadership team around him to encourage him to come back so quickly for such a big event, having the confidence in his abilities, understanding that that was a quick loss, he didn't take a lot of damage, he learned a lot and was ready.
He speaks about the coach as well, like you get an idea of okay, is my coach wanting his fighters to fight all the time and to take fights, or is he will take certain fights maybe once a year, 2 years? Are these guys regular? Are they wanting to go somewhere, or is this a one and done deal? Ike is the kind of guy, he will not back down from any challenge, and he's happy to throw people in deep ends. But he'll polish and polish and polish and polish. Jed, it's just a matter of polishing, and you know, it's getting shinier and shinier.
So a name for everybody to watch.
Jed Dale, yeah, I do believe he's got a big future. He's only had a couple of fights, 3 fights so far, I believe. 2 and 1.
Interesting to see if he gets on the Apex card. I don't know if any of
he'll be
those fights have been announced as of yet. But
I don't believe so, but I would be very surprised if Jed Dale was not on that card.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he wants to be pretty active, and you know, took no damage.
Yeah. If you take no
looked
damage,
good.
you want to get jump straight back in there.
Yeah, February's not too far away.
It's creeping up on us. Yeah, and I just wonder how many of these fighters that we will see again in Apex as well. And I would imagine there'd be at least a handful of them that we'll see return. So fight 3. So after the arm wrestling,
we had the arm wrestling
and the shaky bakey.
Baby
it was the Viking taking the victory over Leroy.
Yeah. And the Viking did very well there. So
smashed.
Yeah,
Smish.
smished it. So third fight.
So we had Ryan Jankowski or Jankowski. Kowski or Kowski?
Jankowski, I went
Kowski?
with.
I'll go with that. From Wolf's Den, came over from WA. This was if you remember back, he was the smaller, very fit-looking, short-haired blonde fella against Anthony Liulios. Now, this is an interesting one for me to call because I knew Anthony previous. I mean, no one knows much about Ryan apart from what we could see, you know, on video. But Anthony's been an SA boy, and he spent a lot of time at Cardioflex for many years. When I was back there back in the day before now coming to Richie Blake's gym, United MMA. So he had a lot of maturing to do. To be honest, we didn't like Anthony too much. I'm going to Anthony, it's not personal, we love you. But the reason, and Anthony knows we didn't like him too much because he was a young boy, he'd come from school and he just wanted to bang. So he would come from school, drop his bag and bring blokes from school, not members of the gym or whatever, take them into the boxing ring.
Wow.
And so I'd be looking after people and PTing over here and, you know, this and that. And he's brutalising people in the boxing ring.
Traumatising.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, the first blood knows, all right, we clean it up. Please clean up your blood after. I don't want them clean up. It's all, you know, just constant. And we like, because he's so young, you know, we don't want to be answering to his parents about, you know, what's happened again. And so we wanted to make sure it was supervised and controlled and please do things that we're asking you to do rather than, whoa, you're just going too hard all of the time, you know. So that was Anthony and that was our experience. And my experience with him was always trying to pull him back. And but yeah, he didn't listen. Anything. But he was, you know, obviously the thing we get out of that is Anthony was keen. And he was always keen to be there. The other thing that I know about Anthony is that he never, ever, ever, and again, I'm sorry, Anthony, you probably know things have changed and your game's changed since those days when I knew you, but hated any kind of wrestling or getting on the ground.
No grappler.
Yeah, and it's MMA, boys, it's MMA. So, you know, if you have a weakness, that's what your opponent is going to try and exploit. Of course, things have changed, but in this particular fight, he did get taken down to the ground. It was his weakness, and it was done. It was done. There was nothing that Anthony did or could do once Ryan took him down. Ryan completely dominated him on the ground, and I strongly believe Anthony can get better, but he needs to focus on ground game. You may think you're the best striker in the world, but it's MMA. Probably a bit of a simple message, but yeah.
Yeah, a big future there and tons of enthusiasm from the young man and always great to see a young local give it a go. And on this occasion,
respect to him. He got in the ring. I didn't, so good on you. The respect to you.
Yeah,
but
I would like to see.
If he could work and get better, then that's the area he needs to work on.
That's where
Is
you
that
go.
a bit harsh? I feel.
No, that's all right.
No, not at all. Not at all.
You're giving him the advice he needs.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe we need to get harsher with some of these people.
That guy. You know, my coach. What do you think? I love you, Anthony.
And it would
stay out of the ring.
It would have been a very long flight back for Ryan if he had lost. So
he did well.
He did well and came a long way for the fight as well. So
good performance.
Next fight on the
Jesse Murray came down from Queensland.
Jesse Murray.
This guy's an old school, been around the traps as well. he may only have 2 or 3 fights on his actual record, but he's been training for a long time. We all know him. So Jesse came down and he fought the local boy Sam Nijelki from Element. Remember Nijelki with the Viking haircut?
Yes.
That didn't move. It stayed perfectly in place.
I don't know how he does it.
I'm jealous.
Lotion. Lotion.
Yeah.
Nijelki fought on the February card at Apex as well.
Yes.
You may remember him from that. He had a great fight with, was it Jed? Was it Jed? No, it wasn't Jed. It was one of the Cardio Flex boys. Good back and forth fight. Lost by decision in February. Came back. He's got a new striking coach who's really worked with him over the last 7 or 8 months since then as well. And he showed that. I think Jeremy is his striking coach. Really did well. And back and forth tight battle. But I think he won by decision. Nijelki. That's right. Knees were the difference. Knees were the difference in that one. Clinched knees. Nijelki's issue, though, if you noticed, was he kept getting stuck against the cage and pressured against that cage, and being able to work and come back to that middle and take that dominant position was the challenge.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge for Nijelki.
Wall and stall and the wizard. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, but he got out of those positions by using knees in that clinch. So well done, Nijelki. Good win. I think knees made the difference. Just got you over the line.
Yeah. And a lot of these fights were very close, and it was just one, whether it was an opportune moment that a fighter was able to take advantage of, or an underlying strategy of whether it was the leg kicks or at knees that were just done enough to make a difference, to separate the fighters in the end.
Yeah, Jesse Murray was hunting that right hand. At one stage, you could just see his eyes light up. He's just looking for that right hand that whole time, and he almost got it, but not quite. Not quite. You know, the ones that just glance, but just not that flush, just right on the button. So that was on. Let's move on. Keys, Vuhrhaus. How did you say that?
K's, like kilometres, but K's, I believe. Vuhrhaus.
Yeah, this is Lass recognised that
It's
name as a Dutch name, and he said it in a
African name.
completely different way to
Kees Vuhrhaus.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Your accent is very sexy.
Thank you. I'd like to.
Suddenly gone South African to Russian. But
Oh, that's very nice. Very nice. He fought Sayed Hassanovic.
Yes.
Super excited about this one. This is Sayed's been in the background under the sleeves
Under
of
the
the
radar.
Matrix coaches for a while. He's done lots of little grappling tournaments and done things here or there. First cage fight, 5 days notice.
Wow.
Yay, hell yeah.
You gotta respect anybody who jumps in the cage for 5 days' notice.
Dude was fucking ready, man. He was ready.
yeah.
He was ready. In the my little chat to him, I'm like, did you ask any questions about your fighter, and did you get much chance to study, and what do you... I don't care, man. I smash.
Send the location.
Yes. I swear. I'm like, are you Khabib's cousin? He's like, I come to smash. It doesn't matter. Pretty much, I swear. And then he didn't say smash, okay, but it was pretty much
That was the vibe. Okay.
Yeah. And the vibe was also like, he tells me a story about, I'm a refugee. I came to Australia when I was 8. My father died. He was a soldier. And this fight's for my father. Yeah, and he was in tears as well, telling me this story. You know, like, that was heavy stuff, Bosnian guy. And you don't mess with the Bosnians.
Yeah. No. It's crazy how many people don't realise when they're watching a fight. Like, they just go along, oh, yeah, we'll go to see the fights.
Yeah.
And, you know, they don't realise the amount of time and effort, sacrifice, discipline, and that has gone into that person going into that cage to go and fight.
Or the reason behind it.
So
you know, I'm fighting to, you know, with my dead father in mind. I mean, the gravity of that moment.
He said to me, he goes, before I fight, I want you to mention my father's name. He's dead. He's a soldier. I want you to mention his name and say that this is for him.
Yeah.
Wow. So I did. But I just felt weird. I was like, wow, this is really weird. But it's right.
It's important for him.
Yeah, I had to do it.
Yeah.
He just dismantled him beautifully. Beautifully. Just perfect everything. Finished it. First round. What was the finish? Let's see. TKO. Perfect debut. Maybe Sayed, little beast. The wolf, they call him.
Very cool.
Wolf. Yeah, so he was good. Great debut, Sayed. Congratulations. Next one, joint fight of the night. This was sick fight. Will Sutton from Element versus Joe Brown, your mate, Vanilla Gorilla.
Yes. He looked great, by the way.
Didn't he?
He looked fantastic.
Extra white.
Yeah.
Worked on that tan. You got to love Joe. Have you met Joe?
I heard he doesn't like Milo for breakfast.
So racist.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe's great. He's a casual dude, big beast of a bloke, but just real humble.
Yeah.
Lovely guy. He lost in February, Joe, in his debut, by Volker, Damien Volker, Vola, who fought later in the card.
Yeah.
But great back and forth fight. I think the first kick that Joe did, it was a leg kick to Will, and all of a sudden at the end of the first round, we were looking at Joe Brown, who's lifted up his leg, and his coach is icing his left leg. We're like, oh, Joe must have copped a real bad leg kick, and they're icing it. And then we look over to Will as he stands up, and Will's right leg. So it was Joe's left leg that they were icing. We're focusing on this. We're focusing on the wrong guy. Yeah. We then looked at Will, and Will's right leg had a baby coming out of it, like a baby face.
Baby face. It had eyes and a mouth and nose and everything. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
I said, my legs had a baby. We were saying that, and it's the most disgusting thing.
And his coach was strategically placed in front, blocking it, so his opponent couldn't see on the other side, because they weren't. Neither fighter was reacting to it. Neither fighter.
Joe didn't know the whole fight.
Yeah,
he didn't. We were like, Joe hasn't noticed Will's leg, as if you would.
You'd be like, oh, there it is. There's the weak spot.
Yeah, at one point, Will pulled Joe into his guard, and you're like, yeah, well played, Will. You don't want to get up. Because if you're Joe, the best thing you could have done is go, nah, you come back, stand up again. Let's play this game. And then you come to me, chase me for a little while. How's your leg? Oh, I can see your leg now. Now leg chop. Yeah. And just, but, obviously he didn't see it.
The heat of the moment, yeah.
And as a good old mate of Joe, sitting on the side of the cage, I was just very tempted to go, Joe, the leg. But you can't do that.
No coaching from this commentary box. No.
Yeah, dude, that was brutal. It literally was like something was literally coming out of their leg. I can't even explain. You won't even... And it didn't really show up on camera. Like, it would have been great to get a camera shot and just look at it so people would just go on.
Because I could see you guys in the corner eye, and you go,
check his leg out.
And I'm thinking, what do they want to tell me for? Yeah. Like, and I thought, is this something they can't tell the rest of the world? What's going on? No. And then we were just get this frustrated. No, come over here. And it was written down. Look at the leg. And I was like, look. And it's like, holy fuck! Yeah. Jesus Christ! Like, there's the third fighter in the ring. And it was crazy. It was crazy.
Any photos that he's put up after the fight, like to sort of see the after effects or anything?
Do you know what I tried to do?
Take a photo sneakily.
A day or two after the fight, I send Will a message. Yeah, I'm like, "Hey, Will, DM, how you going? Hope you're all right. How's the shin?" And I was really sending him a message. Will, if you're watching this, I love you, but I was sending a message just in hope that you'd send me a picture. And after he's like, yeah, I'm good, I'm recovering, and great fight. I felt bad. I didn't ask for the picture, but geez, I would love to.
You know what you should have done?
The next day,
how's the baby?
Right? And the same thing with Dan Curry, talking to him after the fight, Jesus, or you're talking to the coach. How are they feeling after that particular fight? We'll come to in a minute. So that was that fight. Ended in Decision, Joe Brown.
Decision, I think it was. Yeah.
It was, yeah. Fight of the night, back and forward, well played.
It was great. Yeah, fantastic. Deserves a rematch. Yeah.
Then we fantastic. Had the female fighters.
Oh, yeah.
Now this one is a good word talking point.
Coming from Pride just a few weeks before.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. This is the girl had the Muay Thai background.
Tally Greats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great White.
Yeah, the Great
She
White.
Fought on the Pride.
I love a fighter's name with some racism,
Yeah.
Reverse white racism. Yeah, no, she was awesome. She's a Muay Thai background, but I think has about a year or so experience in Jiu-Jitsu now as well. Her dad, you may have heard of, is Josh Greats. Have you heard of him before?
No.
Barossa fighter, mostly Muay Thai background,
Right.
traditional. They kind of changed a little bit in terms of their whole camping structure with more involvement, I think, with Jeremy striking and much more jiu-jitsu background in terms of Barossa element particularly.
Right.
So, yeah, she's been getting a much more well-rounded game to get to this point. The question was as well, are you going to stay in Muay Thai? You're fighting a jiu-jitsu special. Well, you can't call them one thing because they're going to say I'm all round, but she's from Matrix, Samara. Samara Adams from Matrix with the green hair.
Yeah.
Bit more of a well-rounded fighter, and, again, Samara, you'd think would be looking to get her to takedown, but she didn't go for the takedown until she really had to. She got pushed to taking that takedown. When they make the decision, okay, I'm definitely getting beaten, I've got to take this into another area where I'm a little bit more comfortable, where I have a better chance.
Yeah.
She did the big judo throw at the end of the first round.
Yeah, that was exciting. Yeah.
And it was amazing. It was one of those judo throws where I 99% got you, but there's a chance that you can actually reverse this.
Yeah.
And Talia started hooking her underhook leg around the back as she was getting taken down to actually reverse and take the back of Samara. So, you're going to take this down, I may be able to beat you on the ground as well.
Yeah.
And then the first round was done. We're like, oh, shit. What's coming now? Talia got off some good knees in that first round in the clinch as well.
Yeah.
And I reckon she probably won it. In that first round, I would give it to her from the knees. She probably dominated on the standing. And then we get to the second round, and a little bit more of this sort of happened again. I think the question was again, is Samara going to get that takedown? She did. She took it down, and the same thing happened again. Talia's new jiu-jitsu skills with these extra long, lanky legs. You don't want to do jiu-jitsu with somebody who's got those lanky legs because they can get the hook in, and then all of a sudden they're now on my back and change position. And how the hell did you do that? Yeah. They got a seat belt on top and the hooks in the back. It was full on. But as she was able to do that, she was actually able to not just take the back, but use it as a piece to be able to stand back up. But as she did, she kept the one hand on the clinch. So she held this, and then she started throwing knees.
Yep. That was the turning point, wasn't it?
And I counted them loud. Did you hear that on the commentary?
Absolutely, yeah.
15. Wow. 15. Sounds brutal. It's like, and the knees are landing. That's 3, 4, 5. I'm thinking, okay, it's going to stop at 7, and then we're going to go back to strikes. Or 15.
And hit the
And
right
there
spot.
was a bit of a
went,
controversial ending to that particular bout.
Let's not talk about it. So there was super controversial, Dave.
And in the moment, I couldn't quite make out what was
Yeah.
going on because it is difficult when you've got all of the noise around and you've got the corners yelling
Happened so
instructions.
fast.
And then, and to me, because I actually got a little bit caught in the moment because you're not, you're kind of you're distracted, you're waiting for the end of the round. And then I naturally got half an eye on the action and I could see Talia was looking dominant. And then it seemed to me that almost like it was the end of a round or that there was a break, there was something.
Yeah.
And then there wasn't.
Yeah.
And almost like there'd been a separation, but then that was reversed.
Yeah.
And then, I think Talia might have come in one more time, and then there was, and then the fight was ended.
Yeah, Talia had to finish by throw a couple of little strikes, strike little pitter patter strikes just to get the referee to do the job.
Yeah.
The worst thing, as you called that perfectly. The referee, as you'd like them to be, is far away, but clear to be able to see both fighters from this perspective. As soon as the referee starts to make any sudden moves, that's dangerous. It's showing intent to make a decision.
Yes, yeah.
And if you watch this, I've watched it 50 times. The referee had a mullet as well. What a great mullet that was. But he made this on the 15th knee. And we'll talk about the 15th knee and where it landed and what happened and what should have happened. But on the 15th, something happened. And he rushed forward, 3 or 4 huge big steps running towards the fighters.
And that's where Talia's pulled back, is it? When she's seen the ref.
Right.
Right.
So at this point,
She's seen
Samara
the ref. Yeah.
has been hit in a location that maybe she shouldn't have been hit in, and there is no more fight. She's done. She's rolled over onto her knees and covered her face in agony. Not knocked out, but she knows she shouldn't have copped that. And even though, look, by the 14th knee, it was done. But that 15th one, we'll talk about in a sec. We'll come to that. But it was done. He's rushed in as if he's going to do something. There's that moment that you talked about. That there's this weird
like a half a minute, half a second that didn't exist.
There's this half a second in time that we're going to pretend never happened, apparently, or the referee would like to pretend never happened, but it did happen. He made this sudden movement, and now there's confusion.
And then
No
then
one
he
in
stopped.
the crowd knows what's going on. The commentators don't know what's going on. The referee don't know what's going on. And most importantly, Talia now is looking at the referee saying, what the hell? Are you stopping it? Are you continuing? She's on the floor and she's done, and I may have done something legal or illegal. Mass confusion. What do I do? Talia, smart enough, I spoke to her after as well, and she said, well, look, I've been around, and through my Muay Thai experience, I know, of course, you do not stop until the referee completely pulls you off. And that's good to hear that from a young fighter, that she knew that and was confident she had to do what she had to do. She didn't hit her hard, but she had to do what she had to do to get the referee to stop her, to stop the fight, which the referee should have protected that fighter a lot earlier, in my opinion.
So before the 14th knee?
Yeah.
Yeah. So two things there. And look, all sympathies to officials who volunteer their time, go out of the way, often travel.
No sympathy for the haircut.
We can always take points off the style, but all sympathies with them. It is difficult, and they're doing it for the love of the sport and to support the fighters themselves. And
Not our usual referees, by the way.
So, but on that occasion, your feeling was 14 was enough. It didn't.
Should I put my balls on the line?
Yeah, go on.
Yes, we do want you to do that. So hang on, before you do that, any risk to us? No, in which case, go for it.
We
absolutely.
get to take 15 knees.
There's a slight fungus on my left
is this an
testy.
exclusive? Is this an exclusive?
So I'll put my balls on the line, and before I say anything, look, guys, I'm sorry if I get this wrong. It's just my opinion, and I don't know everything, and I haven't had all of the conversations. But from what I see,
one commentator's perspective.
Yeah, I'm going to be in trouble.
Expert opinion.
And it's all opinion. It's everything is subjective, because hey, I'm not a referee, and referees, as you said, are human. They make mistakes.
They have
But interesting. Again, like DFC, we normally have Greg Kleinjohns, who comes over from Melbourne, of course, and who's one of Australia's, if not best, referees.
He's
Also
right up there.
Referees for UFC. And he's also the Richmond Tigers boxing coach.
Oh, there you go.
He's a pretty successful dude, Greg.
Cool.
We love Greg. We've got a great relationship with him and a couple of other guys. But on this weekend, there was 3 massive MMA promotions going on in Australia at the same time. We didn't get the guys we were normally used to familiar with, but we got this guy. And I believe he made a mistake. I'll be clear on the mistake. That 14, firstly, we've got to understand, and I made a mistake in my commentary not taking this in mind, but realising now that this fight was an amateur fight. So you can't knee to the head. But the 15th, and here's the trick for me. I was watching it, and Talia had her back towards us, so we couldn't actually see where the knees were landing. Yeah. But I was calling them out, going 13, 14, 15. The 15th one was the questionable one, and it was questionable for many reasons. But what I thought it was questionable for, I was wrong in. I thought it was questionable in terms of had her butt hit the floor, the 3 point of contact rule.
Right. Okay.
Right? She had 2 feet on the ground, and it wasn't her hand that was going to the ground. She had her hands in front of her face, protecting or hands up, sort of thing, as she was going down. But her bum was going down against the cage, right? So the rule is, of course, as you guys know, you have to have, as soon as that 3rd point of contact hits the ground, regardless of professional or amateur, no knees to the head, right? And we know what happens at that point. It could be a no contest, or it could be allowed to continue after a 5-minute rest. But in light of it being an amateur, no knees to the head at all.
Even standing.
Okay.
But my point at this stage, it happened so quick, was I thought it was about a 3rd point of contact. Had her bum hit the ground? Had it not? Was it illegal or was it not? Here's another mistake that was made. It was made on behalf of DFC, and I'll say it right now. one thing we've got to get better at, and this is something I've done. I've been involved with DFC in lots of different capacities, and one of the capacities I used to have is I used to be the replay guy. It's a great job, replay guy, because you have your mates and they get a knockout and you get to replay it 50 times more than the other guy, Slightly standard.
Let's see it again.
But we had a new replay guy on, and who wasn't familiar so much with MMA. The right thing to do is to replay the dodgy decision and the final 14th, 15th knee, slow motion, about 10 times so that everybody can see it and it's clear. It didn't happen. It was replayed immediately after it happened, before anybody had realised
what had happened.
And then never again. And so we saw the replay and we were like, oh, was that illegal? Was it okay? But there was also this weird focus on the referee's movement, and then he stopped. So it's like you didn't know where to look at. Was the referee, were we looking at the referee? Should we be looking at what happened previous to that? Was it third point of contact? Or was it just a knee that hit the face in an amateur bout that should never have happened? Or should the referee have stopped it on the 12th, 13th, 14th, prior to...
Was he starting to move in on the 13th, 14th?
He made sudden movement, bro, after the 15th. Not on the 13th, 14th.
Right.
He wasn't. He was way out, cool as a cucumber, and then crazy.
Comes
And
running
then,
in.
he realised he's made a mistake.
So what
never
do you
hesitate,
think?
right?
What do you think he may have seen that made him run in? Do you think it might have been?
Yes, that
I mean,
last
we are speculating here, of course. We can't speak for him, of course. But and there's split moments. Moments that need to be computed instantaneously for a referee, and we can't underestimate the difficulty and the pressure that referees are under. But in that moment, what do you think he saw that made him rush in?
This will be a weird call, right?
Okay.
I reckon I'm right, though. But it'll be weird. I can't prove it. But I believe the referee just temporarily forgot that it was an amateur bout and was more concentrating on the same thing I was concentrating on in regards to have a bum hit the floor.
3 points of contact.
Right? Because that's the most fights you're doing, that's what you... That's the thing to look for.
Yeah.
Right? It's not so much about amateur fights and because that's not the...
Right. And so that's the...
And her bum, so you know how close it was like an inch to 2 inches. I freeze framed it. I'm like, yep, that's it. That's an inch and a half. It was super close.
And from where the
he
referee
known.
was, no,
No,
and
split
he wouldn't have
second,
been actually able to see that from where he was, because the feet would have been in the way for one as she was going down.
It was super fast.
Yeah, and he would have been looking for the next strike and where that was going to. The reaction...
This I'm going to point this one out too. And I spoke to Talia and she pointed this out to me. 13, 14, those knees, she was on her way down.
Yeah.
The 15th, this is what Talia said, the 15th only landed because of
she
the
fell.
fighter's movement on the way down. She was kneeing in the same place, but because the head was now lower, it landed on the head.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was never an intention to knee to the face, but she was just kneeing. And as the fight almost got KO'd, it's when Samara almost put herself in that position.
She fell into the knee
Super quick.
almost.
It was definitely an accident, but it was illegal.
Do you think it would have changed the outcome of the fight?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
But it could have led to Talia perhaps being disqualified.
Yeah.
No contest, yeah.
Or no
But
contest.
it led to
yeah.
it definitely led to confusion, and from I think from all parties, a little bit of bad feeling. Not in hatred towards each other or anything
Mainly
like that.
just hatred towards you.
But look, well, honestly, my first thing that I did when I got home the next day is contact the coaches of Samara to apologise on my behalf for my commentary.
Okay.
Because I felt terrible. I'm going 13, 14, 15 like they're great. And I'm screaming, 15, she's done it in 15. The 15th one was bad, Rich. And I'm making it out like it was great. Now I get to watch the replay and I'm watching it in slow motion and then I'm realising it's an amateur, it was in the face. So I call, Farouk from Matrix, say, man, I love you. This is what happened.
Yeah.
And Samara's corner were... Well, I don't know if they knew why the fight had ended, but they definitely saw the knee to the face.
Dude.
And that was the...
Did you see what happened there?
Well, yes.
The corner jumped or something? What?
Well,
Yeah?
they could have. And
Everything's cool now.
Yeah.
Oh, they
We
were
had a moment.
fired up.
There was a moment.
And I think somewhat escalated by the fact that the confusion of the moment. One thing everybody could agree on was that it was probably the ref's fault at that point, and there was leading into that moment, Samara was still fighting well. Right up until that flurry of kicks. It was a very even contest, and I think from her corner's perspective, they thought that she was every chance if she could have gotten out of that situation still, and to see it ended that way was probably a huge disappointment, and the emotion of that moment definitely boiled over. And
some words.
There was words back and forth through the cyclone.
I don't know
fencing.
what they were, but
I think initially the ref may have gone to address some of those concerns and then thought better of it.
Yeah, I know this though. I know that now everybody's had a good chat.
Yeah.
And everybody loves each other.
Well, yeah.
I mean, if it doesn't, if it's the outcome of the fight is going to be the same, regardless of that, incident or whether or not that knee was illegal or not, it was heading that direction.
Yeah,
pretty significantly.
But the tide had turned in as much as where the fight was going at that point.
Yeah.
I
blame the ref and not Talia.
Let's get him in.
Talia's a beast, by the way.
She's a beast and such a lovely girl as well. But
that's not funny. She looks lovely. But the song she came out to?
Is it the Diane Word one?
Talk shit, get hit. Gangster,
It's great.
But at that moment where I did feel for the ref in some respects, because you could see his mind was chasing to trying to reconcile the decision whether
he had
then he had the
troubles at
the corner
that point,
in the ear. Yeah,
I've got little fires going on now.
Yeah, he literally had 3 fights because he had a fighter not sure if she'd won.
Yeah,
a fighter on the floor that could be hurt, and a corner upset at him about all of it.
What have you done?
And and in that moment, really difficult because these refs have to come back, of course, and I think his very next fight back was with the same corner. Just as it turns out, but he I do feel for the ref, and in that moment he turned to me and went, basically, fuck, and it wasn't about anything other than you could see that he knew that he'd disappointed people, and you could see he'd taken the responsibility of that moment really seriously.
Oh, of course.
And
imagine him going to bed that night. He just, you just live with it, wouldn't you? You'd be going, I wish I could take that moment back, and just 2 seconds earlier.
And you kind of think, it's fun and it's entertaining and it's a great night out and we had an arm wrestle, but then there's moments of great gravity and seriousness where he knew that he was responsible.
Split-second things that are happening.
And you could almost see him calculating that could have easily gone much worse for Samara, and you could see him thinking, oh well, it was good that it didn't, but if it had, the guilt that he would have carried with him would have been tremendous, and still I think the gravity of the moment carried through with him for much of the rest of the night as well. So I feel for our officials, like I say, they volunteer their time, they often travel a long way, and it's largely a thankless task. And in this situation, it was a difficult one.
No one goes, you
were so good, you let that fight go perfectly. Like it just went so great. No one got hurt, and we ended up with a champion. It's all thanks to you. Yeah. No one says that, but when the fight goes a little bit funny, we're all
any questionable at all.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's not football umpires, because geez, we're allowed to slander the crap out of them. UFC ref.
I think one of the reasons, obviously, with MMA is there's so many different techniques and movements and things that can be going on at once, and somebody can get hurt, but then maybe they get hurt, they go on their back, but then they get a submission and they win. And it's like, you don't want to, as a referee, you'd be in that like hesitation world of, do I stop it? Oh no, I don't know.
Yeah, and the risk of injury is super high.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so the risk associated with making the wrong call could be life-threatening for someone. So
and you don't want to make the call, and then like there's been so many fights where somebody is like, say in a guillotine submission or something, and he stopped the fight, and the guy's like, I'm fine. Like, what are you doing?
Yes, so many times we've seen those. Okay, Matt, let's test your crazy memory now, right? How many times? I've got one for you. Ben Crazy Hair, right?
Ben Henderson?
No,
Ben Askren?
Ben Askren.
Oh, Funky Ben Askren, yeah.
Funky.
Yeah. Robbie Lawler. Did Robbie Lawler go out? His hand dropped.
See?
I would have called it. Robbie Lawler was not out, but the way his hand dropped made it look like he was out.
Bulldog choke, wasn't it? Bulldog?
Yeah. It was a choke. Robbie Lawler, super heavy striker, was beating the living crap out of Ben Askren. Ben Askren manages to get off the ground in a bulldog choke, had him against the cage. Robbie Lawler's got his hand defending like this, and all of a sudden his hands dropped like that, like he's gone unconscious. But then stopped the fight, and he's fine. Herb Dean, one of the most experienced referees, is the one that stopped the fight. And
Do you know why?
Herb said, "I thought you were out."
I've got a crazy theory. You know, have you seen the YouTube videos of Ben Askren with watermelons?
What, squeezing him?
Yeah, bro. He gets one in each arm, and he goes, rah, smashes them, and they explode.
Yeah.
Herb Dean had seen that, right? And he's like, oh, watermelon, yeah, it's done.
I remember watching that fight. I remember watching that fight live.
Robbie Lawler's head's about to explode in a
Crazy squeeze time. Yeah.
Pinky juice.
I was not unhappy with that call at all. And because watching it live, the way he dropped, I said, he's out. And then he wasn't out. But the way he looked, it was like, that's how somebody looks when they go unconscious. And maybe he did go unconscious for half a second, and then pop back up again. But you don't go limp like that. You're being choked and then you go, and then you're okay. It's like, the referee's going to stop it.
Yeah. And if you do jiu-jitsu, we get choked out quite regularly and you get put to sleep, you know that feeling of almost being to sleep. And there's it's close. It's so, he could have been in and out, like instead of black and white, just grey kind of,
The room is
slowly. It's like, when you see stars. I used to feel tingles from my toes working up my body.
You knew it was coming.
Like, oh yeah, it's coming. And it's a warm. It's actually not too bad. It's like, whoa, it's sleepy sleep time. And then you wake up and all your mates are standing around the mat going, shit, it happened again.
Have you been choked unconscious? I haven't.
I've been choked once unconscious. Yeah.
Was it you allowed it to happen, or was it something that you need to talk to us?
I didn't want it to happen. I was trying to stop it, but I wasn't very good at it.
Was this in jiu-jitsu class?
This was just mucking around with a mate of mine who said, we'll muck around. And so a mate of mine is a fairly accomplished martial artist and takes every opportunity he can to bully me. And that was one of those.
Say his name?
Yes, his name is Daniel. I'll call him out. His name is Daniel White. You know who you are. And revenge is sweet.
Daniel.
DFC 13.
I'll see you on the arm wrestling table.
Yeah.
So
he got you back and he rear-naked choked you?
I can't even remember exactly. We were just rolling around and we were... just because he...
And you had no idea what you're doing.
He was actually the man who introduced me to the UFC.
Right.
Yeah, the videotapes from the fish and chip shop, all of that. We were rolling around. There was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu place just outside of town here, and I think it was the first time that we went there. And I remember they paired me up because I was fairly big at the time with a heavyweight. And
when has he been small?
Yeah,
I've seen pictures, people.
And the guy wasn't as big as me, but he was definitely a lot more proficient. But it got to a point where some degree of strength was required, and I was. I don't think he felt I was being very respectful to the art, and so we got a little bit separated. And then they said,
"Oh,
well, I think." His English wasn't great, this guy, but he was like...
But there was talk.
Like, I could tell that he was better than me, but I knew that I was stronger than him. And so
You're like, my strength beat your technique.
Yes.
You can't out-take me. I can beat this. Jiu-jitsu, not real.
Yeah. And I was able to kind of keep moving. Anyway, he didn't like what I was doing.
We all do this in our first jiu-jitsu class, though, isn't it? Every one of us has done exactly what you're talking about. We know what you're talking about, Dave.
Yeah. So they paired me up with a bony little girl.
Oh, this is exactly what I do to the guys coming in off the street. Yeah, come with my little girl. Yeah, come. And she gonna smash you now.
And I thought, so I thought I'll go. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just knew I'd be, polite, and I wasn't going to kind of impose myself. She was all elbows and achy and bloody jumping on me and like that. It was like when you get one of those like little rabid dogs or something like that. They're too small. You can't chase them away, and they jump all over. You can't push them away, and they get a little nippy in here and there. And they're not going to kill you, but bloody hell, you're not going to walk out of there the same. You know, there's going to be little pieces of you that you'll never be able to get back. And she was like that. She was very tough and very very bony. And I didn't go back. I didn't go. That was it.
She choked you out.
No, she didn't choke me out. No, but he did.
So you had to after they separated you. I want to go back to this program. Well, I think we need to go deep.
That's right.
Well, I think the next thing was nobody wanted to play with me anymore, and I certainly didn't want to play with that girl anymore. So it was like I got paired back up with my mate, and then he just choked me.
Okay.
So, that was after. Okay.
Yeah. That was him. Yeah. So
did you enjoy it?
I don't remember wanting to do it again. Any of it.
Have you ever done jiu-jitsu since?
Not since.
Dave. We can play, Dave.
It's such a high level of physicality in that sort of thing. You're either going to be like, I love this, and I'm going to, like, this is my thing. Or it's like, this hurts, and everything hurts, and I can't breathe.
I was a little
my
bit sore.
throat is hurting from being, having someone's forearm pressing on my nose, my face, and bruised, and elbows, and it's like, it goes one way or the other, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so you got brutalised by a girl.
Brutalised by a bony girl, and I've never been back. So,
smart man.
Yeah.
I loved every minute of it.
Back to the gym.
So let's get back to these fights, crazy guys. What are we doing? We poor people who are watching. I'm surprised if anybody's watching the stage.
That's like, just get to my fight.
Yeah. So
where are we?
We just got. I think we got through Talia's victory there. So on the 15th, dubious contact and much controversy, and then after the crowd died down from that moment, where did we find ourselves?
You got up on the stage with this beautiful red suit of yours and got the crowd's attention.
I thought we were all wearing burgundy, by the way, but nonetheless.
Oh, sorry, not red. It's Santa suit. That's for later. Couple of weeks. You introduced Damien Vola from Element. Previous came off the card and beat Joe Brown in February. Big boy Damien Vola, the previous MVP gridiron player.
Wow. Was he really?
Yeah.
There you go. Wow.
Do you guys like gridiron?
I haven't watched much of it.
No, can't say. Yeah.
America.
American with the weird footballs.
I've tried watching the Super Bowl, and it's just you're going, I don't get it. Like I appreciate it that it's a big sport and whatever, but the stoppages and stuff. If you're into it, you'd be into it. But trying to watch, if they put it on once a year and they're like, oh, everyone watch it, and you're sort of there going, I don't know what this is.
I'll take you through an abbreviated history lesson.
Oh, great!
Codes one day, so I can fully explain to you why it is that we have gridiron in the first place. But it's for another episode.
Someone kill me. So Damien comes out. I called this one the Beauty and the Beast, right? Damien's got a head like me. He's a little rough. So Damien comes out. He's fighting my old mate James. This 5-6 years ago, he came in and I was teaching a fitness class at Cardio's, and he brought in a mate of his, and massive dudes, big, tall, bloody lanky guys, and just put them with each other. And just for the next year, basically every day come in and just smack the shit out of each other.
Wow.
All I said to him for a year was, please, can you not hit each other so hard? Oh, God. Brutal. I would not want to be behind any of these unco punches that they were throwing. And it's just, when they come in and they're just unco and damage is happening, people. And you come in, you're doing your first lesson. Please don't do any spinning back fists. Crazy spinning shit that you're trying out. You've never done it before, and you're knocking out the girl in the third row. And that was James. He was always keen, really good dude, and super bloody strong dude, man. Just gifted dude.
Just naturally. Yeah.
Really quiet and unassuming character.
They're the ones you got to watch out for.
Yeah, really scary. Watch the guys who don't talk much,
They smash you.
But this is 5-6 years ago when I knew James. Great talk about for the last 5-6 years is, James, when are you going to fight? When are you going to do this, James? Yeah, I'm going to do it one day. And that was his day. So
great.
It was a big build-up. 5-6 years. He was ready years ago. He fought Damien Vola, and he screwed up. He screwed up. James, love you. But he made a massive mistake in the first round. This is the this is, and you asked me before. Do you sometimes know the end of a fight before? Sometimes it's telling, and here's why this one was telling. The mistake he made, you could have foretold it. As I said, it took him 6 years to get this fight. He's been training consistently all of that time. He probably could have been fighting a long time ago. The build-up for him was too intense. He got too, and it's the first. Yeah, he got too keen. He goes for a judo throw that wasn't there, and so you force it. You know, we were talking about before, technique versus strength. Yeah, and so I know, I was going to say I believe, I know James felt that he was better than Vola, and so maybe he was a little bit too confident in that. Vola's a great jiu-jitsu specialist. If he has a chance to reverse and gets a little angle, he's strong. If he can get on top of you, now you're fucked.
Yeah. and it's one of the problems when you've got athletes that big, you don't have to make too many mistakes to be exposed. Yeah.
If you want to push it and push your balance a little bit too much, when you know, hey, I could possibly reverse it, I'm going to. And he didn't need to go for this takedown. This takedown took 3-4 seconds. It was like, I haven't got it, but I haven't got it. I'm going to keep working, and now I've made this.
Now I'm committed. Yeah.
Right, I've committed.
I've got to finish this somehow.
It was silly. It was silly. Something he will regret. He's much, much better than that, James. He will come back. But get on you, Damien.
And Damien's been throwing his hat in the ring for a long time and has kept coming back. And that ring craft and that experience and understanding how to deal with the adrenaline in the moment and the big stage, that you could see that he was much more settled in the ring on this occasion.
He was, And if you see his first fight, he got knocked out in 7 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah.
7.
But you don't learn a lot from that, unfortunately.
But it's humiliating, isn't it? Like you build up, you bring all your family and friends to you, and you get 7 seconds. You know, what do you tell your coach? And you go back to the drawing board. Most people would quit. Yeah, most people wouldn't put themselves through it again.
Tim Hague.
And there's and that's really to be admired from, especially at an amateur level, or for people who aren't making money. It's real to find yourself in that situation in your first fight. And, you have your doubters in your circle anyway. You've got those family members or maybe friends that maybe think you're not making the right decision. What are you doing? Yeah. And then, you lose. And what do you say to those people? But what do you say to the people that have been supporting you and spend $100 on a ticket to go watch you for 7 seconds? And then I admire a story like Damien's more than most because of that tenacity and the courage that it takes to say, you know what, fuck it. I'm just gonna. That's not me. That's not the best of me. There's more of me to give, and to go back out there and all credit to him because the accumulation of those experiences led him to be very settled in the cage on that occasion in front of 1,000 people live, and in stark contrast to his perhaps more highly skilled, more well-rounded opponent.
Exactly as you said it. He was more settled. James, a little bit not settled, tried to push something too hard. More settled fighter, a little bit more experience in the cage.
Yeah.
Not a 7-second one, this one.
Was this the Ezekiel choke from the top?
Bro, let's talk about that choke. What was the choke?
Was it Ezekiel?
No,
from top position. Just front.
No,
that was different fights.
The Ezekiel was a different fight. I think that was it was Jed.
Right.
Jed Dale versus Saku
awesome.
Kamara.
You set that up. The Ezekiel joke is like a rear naked choke from the front. Yeah.
Have you ever been Ezekiel choked?
Yes. I tapped, but I didn't go out.
Normally you do an Ezekiel when you have the gi on. So you've got lapels to use, right? And you squeeze and you can do this weird. But he did, it was like, I'll probably get this wrong. Mike and Andy can correct me and whatever. It was like a head and arm triangle / head and arm choke / Ezekiel. And from where we were, we couldn't actually see it. So it was like, oh, shit, do I call this as an Ezekiel and get, everyone's going to get dickhead, you don't even know what you're talking about,
Yeah, get out of here.
But it was pretty much an Ezekiel, no gi Ezekiel, which is not kind of used. It was a, hey, man, we go for our standard submissions. You got, maybe a head and arm triangle, much more utilised, high percentage submission. But he got this from Dylan Opitz. our legendary, jiu-jitsu guy from Cardioflex, loves head and arms. They call him Spider-Man, just from crazy shit that he does with, arms and legs in weird positions. Head and arm chokes from bow and arrow positions on top side control. Weird stuff where you just don't expect to get that kind of submission. You normally want to flatten them out and get that arm locked and but he got it. It was crazy. Like, what the hell was that? Great, yeah, you call it, not me. That was that one. That was Volo Marshall. Really disappointed for Marshall. James, but
James will be back.
You're back.
Yeah.
And then we've got our other fight of the night. My beard's getting caught in this mic. I think it's the electric stack.
There's 3 other people in there.
It's pulling me in. We had Passon versus Macefield after this. Now this could have been fight of the night for many reasons, but the back and forth in terms of the talk and the hatred.
All right.
Did you get to the bottom of that? Did you know where all of that was coming from?
Yeah. So they'd had a previous little sparring session in the gym about a year or so ago. Mm-hmm. And it didn't work out well for Macefield. Passon got the better of him. And at that stage, Macefield wasn't training a lot and hadn't done a lot of striking and so forth, and felt that he could do a lot better. And so they started chatting to each other on social media, a lot of back and forth.
Talking it up.
Yeah, screw you, buddy. I can do better, and we'll fight one day. No, we won't. You're not good enough. All this sort of stuff.
Your wife's in my DMs.
Yeah, a lot of that. So man, the talk was there. The build-up was there. Do you remember when Louis entered the cage? Mark was already in the cage, and the second fighter gets in, and then they do the run around.
Yeah. Oh yes, yeah. So that was the only time in the night where it looked like something might happen pre-fight. In almost all other occasions, they go touch gloves, or
they run past, or don't look at me, I won't look at you, or we'll stare each other out. Yeah. But there was talk, man. As he runs past, he says something, and then Mark says something back. No, screw you. I don't know what they were saying, but we knew it was on.
Fighting words.
Yeah.
I don't like you, and you don't like me, and that was brilliant, man. They didn't stop talking, literally talking the whole fight. The whole fight was great.
See, so they could have talked it out.
Yeah.
This is the.
and then Louis started getting cocky and started showboating, doing this with the hands in the air. Just notice that he'd land and he'd be like, and then he got taken down.
Yeah.
Hands in the air. We got taken down. Double leg being a showboat. Louis passed in. So I think at the end of the first round, Macefield had taken him down, but Louis probably got some better exchanges on the feet.
Yeah.
Brilliant back and forth. The crowd just loved it, 50-50. Everyone was going to war on this one.
Yeah.
And it didn't stop. It did not stop all the way to the end. Fight of the night, hate fest with a little bit of love at the end.
It's always good.
I love it when it works out like that. They build it up in the moment, and both of those young fighters, it is a kind of, it's actually cool. And I think retrospectively, like 10 years or so in the future, those guys will look back at that as being a bit of a moment and a cool, like a beef and a thing, and come out of it on the other side better friends for it. Hopefully.
After the fight this week, I went straight to Facebook, boys, and I wanted to see, has the beef truly been squashed? Watching all the comments, great fight. This is on Louis' site. Mm-hmm. Then I see Mark Macefield come in with a comment. Want to do it again? Whoa! Are we starting it again? I don't know. We're going to go for a rematch. This is crazy.
At least he asked politely.
Louis come back with 100%.
Yeah, all right, awesome. All right, something to look forward to.
Number 2, we could have maybe a trilogy set up with those guys.
So good. It was a great fight. It was a great fight.
Louis Passin with the right hand though. What do you reckon? A little bit repetitive.
Look, I mean, it was working, so
That's what I said. It's repetitive, but it's working.
But and you also get the feeling when there's a bit of beef there and there's a bit of a lead up, there's a point to be made, and maybe that was his point. As well, I can copy with this whenever I like. You don't have an answer to it. Maybe that was part of the gamesmanship of the fight there. It's hard to know, but maybe against a different opponent, he would have behaved differently again. So yeah.
I think Louis is the sort of fighter who kind of thrives on that
the tension and
that bit of talk and need a spark. He's not a kind of
can't be friends with his opponent.
Yeah, well, you got who was the we'll probably talk about it soon with Dan Curry with the blood and all that. Stoicism is the word for Dan Curry, I believe. He's the opposite. He's not at all non-emotional fighter. It seems like, you need to slap him a few times around the back to get him, wind him up. You don't like this guy. He's nasty to your sister. Yeah, that was a good fight. And then, of course, we had the SA Titans come back into the cage.
Yes, yeah.
And a lot of rock and rolling with the
shaky bakey and the,
it's Berserker and Sledge.
That's Berserker and Sledge, yeah. And so a little bit of the background to that was that we had those two guys. Was it even a super match, or were they just training?
Super match.
It was a super match.
It was a super match, and there was a training match.
Oh, so Matt caught some fantastic footage of that, and it went viral online. And Ike had seen the fight, and it was from that he said,
"Oh, yeah,
we need you guys." I want to see that. I want that, and I want it on the stage. And so, so as a result of that, we said, "All right, well, we'll make it worthwhile." And Real sponsored that event, and so we put some prize money on the table, $500 for the winner.
Real estate,
Real Estate Agents Group. If you're thinking about selling your property, regardless where you may be in Adelaide, then give the team at Real a call.
Really disappointed the way he just went over it the first time. Just needed to take a little break. Let's put it in there. Let's get it done right.
Let's get it right.
Major sponsor of the SA Titans. So,
major. I wish I had a jingle now. Yeah, so we went, let's get right behind this. And that was really our gateway into getting arm wrestling on the card there and featured as part of the night. And there must have been a second gap in the schedule along the way. And we got another spot there too, which was awesome. But it was a great matchup by those two guys. Matt, perhaps if you want to.
Oh, mate. All right. I don't want to take up all the time.
Matt's been waiting. All right.
No, I don't want to take up the time of the MMA.
If we become unconscious,
you keep talking.
I was going to say, if we become unconscious, it's because all the oxygen just got sucked out of the room.
That's right.
More sexy talk from Matt. Here we come.
So there I was.
What type of lotion were they wearing?
Yeah, exactly. No, it was a fantastic match. Sledge and Berserker, both heavyweight guys. It was a back and forth. One of the best matches, probably the best match I've ever seen. And being the referee in it, holding the table, watching these guys go crazy. As I said, normally a match in arm wrestling will be over in a second, less than a second. And to have that back and forth, and it was like, you could feel the crowd going, oh, and then, oh, and it was, they're moving back and forth, moving between techniques and hitting, and it was just all round. It couldn't have gone better for us to have that audience that was watching.
I know what's really happening. They actually weren't doing it all, wrestling at all. You told them, look, we need to make this a really great film, so just pretend, but make it really long and back and forth, but change it, show them all your techniques, give them a good display, and then we'll have a winner.
No, that's right.
Well, that's go Harvey's in the prize money bit. Is that what really happened?
No, it wasn't at all. And
because it looked, we got the full display, didn't we?
I think so.
I mean, unless Berserker had his game plan, definitely what he was going to do, and you can see how much effort they were both putting in. You can't.
So where was Laz coming from? So Laz had what in mind exactly? Because Laz. Technically, Laz, there's not another arm wrestler in Australia that you could even compare to Laz. Technically, a lot of the conventions and norms are thrown out the window, and that's what you might have seen a lot of moving and a lot.
There was some crazy shit going on.
His elbow integrity in terms of like the positions he presses from, no one would do that because your arm is going to break. But he was this. I did my little comment. I replaced your commentary.
Snippety snip. How dare you, sir? How dare you? What did we say then? What were we saying? At this point, we probably completely lost it.
I think really I did enjoy the wakey, shaky, bakey comment. He's gone for the wakey, shaky, bakey. Oh, God.
So in the moment, they made up moves.
We're inventing sports at this time. Going, I think the Skittles are about to explode, everybody. Right, what does that mean? I don't know.
It was like that for sure. Watching the commentary, and I was like, I can't use it.
It's the Skittle.
I had to.
I don't know anymore. It's good though. I like it.
Brought the donkey out.
This guy looks like he's serious or something.
Beard has added weight to his strength.
We had no idea. But we were excited.
I was excited.
We just didn't know what about.
But I knew. That's why I listened to it maybe over 100 times, literally, because I had to I don't want to say this too bad, but I had to get rid of you guys. I'd get me in there instead, but I wanted to keep the crowd noise.
I'd just like to let everybody in the world know that I'm offended now.
Hey, if I was commentating something and you were like, this guy's, I had no idea what he's talking about. Anyway,
we probably appreciate that you actually took it.
It was good for everybody's career.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, watching the match and the techniques they were using. Berserker, and that he has that name for that reason. He goes berserk. I mean, he's hitting from all sorts
Weird
of places
positions.
you would never ever tell anybody. Yeah. You'd be like, don't do that.
Yeah.
That is not the way to arm
No.
wrestle. Basically, because of the conditioning in his bone and his experience, he's able to do that. But if you are at any level underneath maybe 8 years, like you don't want to be doing that.
You wouldn't have the tendon strength.
Yeah, well, your
He's
bone will
been
just snap.
like number one, or arguably number one for a fair long time.
He was a South African champion and came over to Australia a couple of years ago. They had some cultural issues happening in South Africa, which he had to relocate. He came to Australia, came to Adelaide, very underweight. Exactly what's happening over there, but and he turned up to the club one night at about 70 something kilos. He's now like 95, but yeah, 70 something kilos. I'm a almost
77.
It wasn't even that. Maybe.
I mean, he's
72,
6'3" or something too.
Yeah.
He's a tall guy.
Right, yeah. And
emaciated, right?
yeah. And walked into the club. Hey, nice to meet you. Great. I'm very experienced. From South Africa. Great. Okay. And he had nothing.
And you wouldn't have taken him seriously. Had you heard about him at this point?
No. But I mean, anybody that comes in is welcome. And
of course.
Yeah. But
and then you smash.
Yeah. But
Come.
Welcome. Him saying that I'm very experienced and champion in South Africa, and then feeling him that first night, it was like there was nothing. It was like very weak.
Were you the first to go against him?
No.
So you sat back and watched first.
I was swimming with other people, and then we got to him eventually. But
he worked his way through the crowd, and he got up to you.
It was
Shit. Let's see how Matt goes with him.
Yeah, but the first night he was
Not there.
just no strength. But then the second week he got back, I think he'd gone from 71 kilos to 76 or something.
Yeah.
And it was like he was even with me.
Yeah,
even
transformed.
in a week. And it was like, this can't be the same guy. And then a week later, he was stronger than me. And it was like, because he was eating again, being able to train again.
All he needed was food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird that, isn't it?
Yeah.
What food, though? What crazy, amazing
Any
food is
food.
he eating? Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, he's at 95 kilos now, and I mean, there's no fat on him.
That's
Is
right.
there really to speak of? I mean,
Yeah.
you look at him and think he's a thin guy at 95 kilos.
Right.
So, but so strong, so strong.
Unbelievable. And he's, you can see the knowledge that he has in the positions that he has. And, that crazy style of just...
Is perhaps one of the few people in South Australia that's had the exposure to arm wrestling from a really young age, and so as a result has that tendon conditioning and the build up of calcium in his joints and all of those things that make a difference at a high level in arm wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like watching the positions he was hitting in, that's what won him the match, because Sledge was pulling traditionally in terms of he had what we call a hook position, dragging across, and he's very strong, very good.
Strong.
And he would drag less across. And
So the hook position would be a more dominant position, right?
Typically,
if you are strong in that spot.
So you look at him going, he's got the hook, boys.
Most arm wrestlers are strong in maybe 3 different movements.
That's right.
Yeah.
So your top roll, which is my sort of thing, where you're rolling over. Yeah.
Show me your top
Sure.
roll.
This
I
is
got really sweaty palms as
Yeah, that's
well.
all right.
I've been doing things under the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, a top roll is where you're rolling this way with pronation, and I'd be putting the pressure onto your little fingers.
Yep.
The hook is where you're turning in this way and dragging. The press is the same movement there, but you'd be having your shoulder behind your arm and pressing down through. So those are the
completely
3
different movements.
styles of movement.
Sorry about that.
No, you're right. I've had worse, believe me.
We've got lotion,
first time.
3 lotion for that.
3 hours every Sunday of craziness. But so those are the positions that you'd see, and people usually have a technique that they're really good at, and some people are a bit of an all-rounder and they can flow between different techniques. Usually you have a good idea of what this person's going to do before they get up on the table, and you can tell in the setup how they're setting up it's like where they're standing, how they've gripped your hand, where they're positioning themselves. It's like, hey, this guy's going to press me, or this guy's going to hook, or this, you can feel it.
Yeah.
And with what Laz the Berserker was doing in those matches, Sledge had the hook position, which is a really strong position for him. He was dragging across. Laz was able to catch that. And traditionally, for Laz to get back into that spot, he would have to hook as well and either drag it back to the middle, and just be stronger in that spot. He just threw the caution to the wind.
Which he isn't, by the way.
Right.
So he wouldn't be in that position to drag Sledge back.
Instead of fighting Sledge in the hook, he's just gone straight sideways, and thrown his body at his...
that wrenching kind of back and forth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that is all bone. It's just pure...
To get out of that
you would definitely not teach that. No.
And I don't even know how he really did it, because it was just to try to replicate that. It's almost like going to the side of a house and going...
So it's almost... Do you think he's got 3 extra moves?
There's 3 other bones in there.
Yeah, something like that. Because the other thing to understand is Sledge is an immensely strong arm wrestler. He's number 2 or number 3. Three now in the state. And he's immensely strong too. So to break that hook when he's... Basically, it's he's got something close to his body here, and if you were to grip something and you hold it here, and somebody just pull it out, it's going to be hard. If you hold it here, it's easy.
Closer it is, the easier it is, right?
Well, and
hold it.
Yeah, and he's right here, but then Laz was able to still do this to it.
You guys are going, he shouldn't be able to do that.
Oh, I've never seen anybody do it.
You won't see anybody else do it, as far as I can see in the arm wrestling world.
Sylvester Stallone in that movie?
Possibly.
Maybe
the top 2.
Only in Hollywood. Only in Hollywood do those techniques work, unless it's Laz Berserker Botha.
Yeah.
So
from our experience at DFC, it was an honour to be there. As I said, bringing the cage into the octagon, having Dave introduce everybody, and being in front of that crowd, even though they weren't there for us, it was still this is a crowd of people who get to see our sport.
And talking to Sledge afterwards, an interesting aspect of having athletes who aren't used to competing in front of 1,000 people, the adrenaline dump.
Oh, yeah.
As we've talked about with fighters that are inexperienced, well, Sledge felt that. So when Matt Vanocchi got there, he had that adrenaline jump, and what he forgot was to breathe.
Yes.
And he literally
can't hold your breath, right?
He literally held his breath for much of those.
How do you breathe when you're doing that, fellas? It's
you choose your moments, but you definlemely should do it.
Is it fast breath?
You've got to time it. It's like a boxer, a boxer like Floyd Mayweather would, I remember one of his opponents was saying they would have a flurry, and then when they would clinch, he would hear Floyd going in the clinch and then come out of the clinch, and they would, and that's where he was getting those moments where he could take a breath. It's the same with arm wrestling. As I said, most matches are over in a second. You do want to be holding your breath because it's going to frame you and keep you tighter.
What about combining the Wim Hof breathing method with arm wrestling? You guys know what I'm talking about?
I've been trying.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's worked yet, but it's
try it.
The oxygenation process should work in theory, but it's very difficult to
If you're off the start and
it's
you're
2 things to think about rather than bloody one, isn't it? Oh, confusing. Breathing.
Oh yeah. It's going to come naturally. If you're going to lift up something really heavy, you're probably going to go and lift it.
Brace yourself.
And so that initial burst, the first 2 seconds of a match, you're going to be holding because you want everything as powerful as you can get it. If you breathe out, you've lost a lot of energy. Yeah. But if you're in an extended match, that's where you're going to have to find the moments where you can pause for a second. If you get a stop and you're take the breath there. And if I'm watching my opponent, my style is very endurance-based, and I will catch people. I'm not an explosive hitter. I will catch people there, and I'm waiting, and I can feel when they go... And they go, and I go,
what? That's it. Opponents, take note. Now you can beat him. Just do not breathe. Don't take the second breath. Hold on. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what you got to do.
But it's crazy. The strength difference in that gasp of breath. When they just go, and that is enough for me to get through them to get the pin. And it's I'm watching them, waiting for it, because I know they're going...
And then it's evil. That's sneaky.
That little, is enough.
That's all you're waiting for.
Yeah.
That's all you're waiting for.
Yeah. Anyone who's watching, don't breathe.
But it was fantastic too.
How long can you hold your breath though?
Oh well, I mean, obviously in a match.
Well,
like
it's
that,
also exertion. You know, so you're at maximum exertion.
How do you feel at the end of that?
Exhausted.
Are you? You would be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well,
really,
you would have seen.
maybe 3, 4, 5 muscles that are doing most of the work. Probably a lot of a lot of work.
You saw at the end where they had that restart in the last round, and
They were almost.
they were both laying on the table, wrecked, and it was like it's a foul. It's an instant because
So
they're
they
going,
had
"Oh,
to
just give
start
us a sec," and it's like you don't
No.
get a sec.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's why they weren't taken apart because it wasn't over.
Yeah.
That was.
If it's a foul, it's you start again
again.
straight away. You don't
Yeah.
get to go and have a little break and come
that's
back.
brutal,
It's
isn't
like,
it?
no, you
Yeah.
guys started. I was saying, no, you got to keep going. They're both literally laying on the table. I'm like, no, you come up, and they're like, just give us a second. I'm like, no,
That's not what the fans came for.
That's right.
They came to see pain.
Yeah. Wow, that's brutal.
that was great. But from our perspective, couldn't have gone better.
Yeah, it was great. It was awesome. It was absolutely fantastic to have arm wrestling on the big stage.
You guys
So,
can do more and more of it with us, and it's bloody awesome, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
yeah, it was
Love
cool.
it. and like we were saying before, the cross culture, everyone loves it. It's like it's the same kind of stuff, man. It's like
Yeah.
you and me, and we're gonna sort it out, and it's real,
Yeah.
nothing fake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no hiding in
great.
those moments. It's just another combat sport.
So you're gonna say something
just
about
one where you're
Tito
less
again?
likely to get.
No, I'm
sure?
just pointing at Tito so everyone can
Oh,
see.
check
that.
out his abs, everybody. It's just so luscious.
I think He-Man's head got replaced with,
I don't know why.
with a
He
larger one.
We went even nothing to do with Tito, and he's like, "Oh, Tito."
I love the fact that we've got this version of Tito here, which is obviously a John Cena WWE figurine that somebody has coloured in his hair.
I was confused, I must say. I was very confused. I wasn't going to ask or approach that one because I thought
It's just
There's too many ways to offend.
Right.
Yeah. It's,
nothing good can come from this. Yeah.
So what have we got? We're down to the last two fights of the evening. Hey?
Well, three fights. So yeah, you guys were awesome, and it was bloody awesome, and I'm sure we're going to see February. I can't wait for. Next one was Jay Mavramahalis from Complete Control under Happy Alan Hartley, and Josh Frank Redbeard. You know who I'm going for, guys. It's the beard thing. Yeah. Everybody in South Australia loves Josh Frank, you know. A local, you know, piece of MMA here. He's always there fighting for us, and he's great entertaining. He's never going to hold back, and he's never going to throw a punch at 50% or 60%. He's not going in there to tap. And yeah, you know, it's always going to end in a knockout. Could be him. It could be his opponent, but we're going to see a knockout, you know. And Jay did really well against him, and they took it to the ground. I think it was a bit. I'm not sure exactly how it got to the ground by memory, but Josh went for a heel hook, and he did it rather slowly. And Jay is good at heel hooks. Jay heel hooked Josh before Josh could heel hook him.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was, I think it was done pretty quick in the first. But yeah, that was the way that finished. Good old heel hooks. They finish fights and they hurt.
Oh, yeah.
It's good he tapped early though.
Redbeard came over and had to go on our setup of our arm wrestling like a ton of times after that, man.
Yeah?
He won?
He
He
came
won?
over and
We'll
had
recruit
some
him.
guys.
Oh,
with
he
it.
wanted to play, did he?
That was awesome, yeah.
Maybe there's a future for Redbeard, eh? He's like, I'm sick of getting KO'd. This sucks, guys.
I will say in stark contrast to a fighter earlier on in the night, Jay was especially gracious and came over to me and said, "Look, I know my name's really hard to say, so if you can just say Jay or Mayhem, that'll be fine. Like you don't say that." And I said, "No, mate, I'll get it right. I'll get it right. Tell me again. I'll make sure I'll get it right." And he said, "But if you don't get it right, Jay's all right." And he walked off, and I was like, "What a legend, you know, just the opposite."
Don't screw it up like you screwed up the other guys. But you didn't, did you? You got it right.
I think so. I think I did it right on that one. So, but it's always a fear when you say somebody's name incorrectly who does definitely have the physical capability to beat shit out of you.
Imagine you train all. I would hate it though. You train all your life. You get there's your big one opportunity, and then some guy goes, "And here's Dick McFerrin." You're like, fuck, shit. My mum's watching this. You know, like
Yeah.
This was my one chance at being a hero, and look what you've done.
Yeah. And that's when you kind of feel like that ref that we were talking about in Talia's fight. You kind of think, oh, geez, I fucked it up. I didn't want to, and all the best intentions in the world are thrown out the door at that point. But it was well ended by Jay there, and he did a great job. And both fighters very, very gracious and fantastic ambassadors for the sport too.
Yeah,
we'll see them both back.
Do you want to say something about like Rusama Palhares or anything like that?
Oh, tree stump. Yeah, absolutely.
Is Palhares
what's going on here?
Wasn't he the one who
slowly
always
going.
did the very long,
just like Tito's career?
What a prick! Yeah, absolutely.
Right, so I am right. Yeah,
you're right. You're the one. Yeah, absolutely. There was a guy in the UFC who got kicked out of the UFC for holding submissions well after the opponent had tapped.
Heel hooks mostly, was it?
Yeah, knee bars.
Knee bars.
Yeah, and he came when they had the first card here in Sydney. Anyway,
it was.
Yeah, and he got in the knee bar position. Very, very good grappler, and super strong, like a mini version of the Hulk, basically. Very muscular Brazilian guy.
A little bit of steroids, maybe.
Maybe.
Vitamin S.
Take something to the ground. Locks up a knee bar really quick. This is what he does as his thing, and the opponent will tap, and he will continue to crank on that submission and
it is not broken yet. I can do better.
Yeah, and the referee will be literally pulling his arms away, and he will continue the submission. And he is really destroyed.
Tapped like 20 minutes ago. He's still going.
Still going.
When he did it, the first time he did it, Dana and all the rest were like,
benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Well, you do fight till the referee pulls you away and that sort of thing. Yeah, okay. But then second time did the same thing, and it was like I think he had a little bit more questions about him, and then did it again a third time, and it was like, you're done, mate.
Yeah.
Third time, the referee's like, maybe pulling him off like 3, 4, 5 seconds. He's still holding on, like,
and he tears people's knees apart, like ruins their career. And
it's done.
The person tapped before that. They're in that. You've won.
It's a sport. It's not a fight.
You've won.
Yeah,
and then
it's not. I'm going to pull a muscle and you'll be back 2 weeks. So, I'm going to make your knee go the way that it doesn't go, and that's not the other side to side. It's literally back on itself.
Yeah, it's funny he did that because he got kicked
out. Good
out.
feeling. You don't even need to apply much pressure for it to.
9 pounds of pressure. Yeah, he did that. He got kicked out of UFC. He went and fought in it wasn't Bellator, but it was one of the lower organisations, and he fought against.
I love your memory. I'm going to call you all the time. Hey Matt, what was this? Mid-fight. What was that, Matt? I was thinking this, but I can tell my friend that. But when was it? What was the time of day?
It was San Jose. Fired on the pumps. No, so he fought Jake Shields, who is a very experienced fighter. On the downside of his career, also met Pujares in this. I think it was Bellator, but anyway, and did the same thing. Got a submission. Jake Shields tapped, and he kept cranking on it, and the referee had to basically pull him off. And then Jake Shields got up and punched him in the face. Excellent. Yeah. And then he got in trouble with the commission for doing that, and he went to the commission. And his defense, they showed the footage, and he said, "Yeah, I punched him." He goes, "He was trying to break my knee in half after I tapped." He goes, "Give me some slack." And they went, "Yeah, fair enough."
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Maybe we need another couple of people to go in there and hit him around a bit. Yeah. I mean, it's terrible. Yeah. It's not very sportsmanlike.
I didn't know why I told you to talk about Pujares.
The heel hook submission.
Yeah, we're both going heel hooks. They did let go straight away. He tapped early and he's safe and no damage. So that's good.
You don't want to play around with it.
And it's now transitioned into
he's going to be an arm wrestler.
Yeah. So beautiful. It's a happy ending for everyone, really. That one.
I'm hoping it's the same guy because the guy that came over to our table and had maybe 5 or 6 goes, his mates were calling him Redbeard. So I'm hoping it was him and not just another Redbeard.
I'm going to have to send him a message now.
Yeah.
Hey, you got to get onto Matt.
Yeah.
Hey, did you notice when we did commentary for your just going back to the arm wrestling? my best comment that you somehow deleted accidentally was about, hey guys, have you ever done Indian toe wrestling?
Oh God, yeah.
New sport, guys. New sport. What do you No, not a fan.
No, I wrote a list of your comments.
Oh, did you?
And I sent
when
it
you, when
to
you knew
everybody.
that I was coming in for the
Because when
podcast,
you know
what
why?
what was the secret conversation between you? That guy, that guy.
No, I don't. It's fine.
Well, the reason
I'm
why
happy
he
with
wrote
it.
that
I'm happy
list,
with it.
the reason why he
I
wrote
get
that
it.
list is because
I'm okay with
when
you
you
saying bad things about it. I would too.
when you write it all down and then you set fire to it, it all goes away. So
Except I wrote it digitally and sent it to everybody.
Hey, the whole arm wrestle community in
would've been-
Australia,
it would've
unknowns
been
to
really
me.
yeah,
it's
just
like,
the
that
audio.
guy's a massive wanker.
It would have been bad for everybody.
It's just a picture of you.
Yeah.
But everybody's
Dick
commentary
on the forehead.
But everybody's commentary underneath, all attributed to you, and just your photo sent to all the arm wrestling discussion groups around the world.
It would have literally been.
I might not go to February Apex Sport Fest now.
I wouldn't go to Russia.
Or if I
They
go
didn't
past
hear
you,
it.
I'll get the medieval suit on
even
first.
in Russian, they realised that they didn't like.
In Russia, they know about me. Great.
Oh, they're very
it's the
informed.
lotion man. Yeah.
I knew I was saying the wrong thing when I said it. I knew that there would be backlash.
They literally got Berserker and Sledge going absolutely insane. One of the best matches ever. Have you heard about Indian toe wrestling?
Let me tell you about it. I've done some Google searches, guys, right?
And a lot of back and forth. You'd know about
So you
that,
need a
wouldn't you?
toe.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to throw them under the bus. Who else wants to get involved in the Indian toe wrestling conversation here? Nobody. Nobody. No one at all. I'm starting up a new organisation. Anyone?
Is that a thing? Indian toe wrestling? I've never heard of it before. Is that a
let's
thing?
talk.
Oh, God. Okay.
Let's talk.
Have I opened a can of worms?
Bro, you obviously don't YouTube it. Yeah, it's a thing.
Oh, well, maybe we can start a club. Maybe.
How's your toe action? Have you got strong
I don't
toes?
know what it
I don't have
is. It the same as
You'd have strong everything, man.
I don't know about the toes. I've never trained toes.
You're going to jump online and there's specific training programs now just for toe.
Toe.
Yeah, maybe there could be certain secrets that you could utilize in the toe
I
wrestling.
like them.
That's
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I could grab the opponent's foot underneath the table with my own foot.
With your own foot.
Yeah, have you not seen it?
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, here's what happens, right? Let's do it now.
Okay.
They sit on their bums facing each other like this, and they lock their big toe together like this. Mm-hmm. And I think the idea is to same as an arm wrestle, to push it down this way versus that way. It's all about big toe connecting.
Wow. You know what I'm going to be
Naked,
doing
of course,
tonight.
in a
Top of Jello. Apologies to all the Indian toe wrestlers.
I do apologise. Two more fights. Sebastian Temesi from Fight Academy Queensland came down.
Yes, yeah.
This is a rematch against Dan Curry. Fought before a couple of years ago. Pretty tight fight, but Temesi took it just due to better strikes. Curry was a little bit obvious. Kept on coming for the takedown. Should have maybe changed it up a little bit. Maybe some chain wrestling and different types of takedown. Maybe from the clinch. I don't know. Curry always comes forward. Similar kind of game plan. Sebastian Temesi picked him apart. Beautiful jab.
Yeah.
And blood hit the canvas.
That was
Crazy,
incredible.
we talked about the blood.
We talked about the blood, the smell. Yeah.
The smell was intense. Yeah. What do you say about that, man?
I would say it was visually one of the most spectacular fights I've ever seen in person. And for anybody watching online, they missed out on the smell of blood. It was, if you were within a couple of metres of that cage, it was unmistakable.
You know the weird thing about the blood for me is like, I don't know if I should be glorifying it or if I should be pretending it's not happening.
Glorify it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I love
Well,
I love the brutality of it. If you're going in
more
that cage,
blood.
If you're stepping foot in that cage to fight, you're going to fight. Like, I hate the...
I don't think it's so much about the blood. I think it's more about the athlete that's still standing in spite of the blood. You know,
Yes.
it's like the blood, for all that it's there, it was really just this superficial thing that was not telling the full story of that fight. And the full story of the fight was that it went the distance, even though most fighters after that first round would have gone down and stayed down. and would not have been able to breathe through that nose for the rest of the fight. But he stood, he breathed well. His cardio was exceptional to be able to breathe like that through the mouth for the entirety of the fight and still keep your rhythm and to still remain braced the whole time was just
competitive as well.
It was absolutely amazing. Amazing.
It was not a winning performance, but it was a fucking performance.
Wasn't it?
It shows
it wasn't the performance of a loser.
No, that's right.
So that it wasn't a winning performance, but it wasn't it was the performance of a winner. It was somebody who was winning in the moment because he was able to get to the next moment, and it wasn't a game plan as much as I'm just going to keep getting through and keep create. This was the other thing. He kept creating opportunities.
Yeah.
You know,
Keep
so
coming back. What are you doing, man? Run away.
And there's an overhand right, and any of them could have landed. And, you know, it could have been one of those shock moments where all of a sudden one of those connected and it was all over. And at that point, it wouldn't even have been a surprise. You know, it would have just been, well, the fight was going that way. And then wow.
Yep.
And it was, so it was a tremendous battle.
Did you talk to him after at all? Or did I would have liked to have heard like how Manly was affecting him, or did he just say, "I'm going to put this in the back of my mind and walk forwards no matter what"? Or
I didn't talk to him. I talked to his coach. I just felt for him, man. Like he's got to go home. He's a real person at the end of the day. At the end of that fight, and they love. You know, there's always huge amounts of love with your fighters, of course. They're like a brotherhood, and he was. As you'd expect, Matt, from ISO Health to be, as per usual, just a legend, just real humble and thankful that, how's this? His major comment and his main point was, we're really grateful that we got to fight. And like, what? You animal, like, you know, he's like, hey, yeah, he's okay. He's going to recover. He's going to be fine. And, you know, wow, like just... It was brutal. You really felt for Curry. He had a huge cart going across the bridge, wasn't it? That was, I think, the big bleeder. But then I think the eyes opened up as well. I don't know if you could see, man.
It was really hard to see for the blood where the blood was coming from. Like watching it live, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell. I assumed that his nose had got busted open.
Yeah. I would have liked for Iska to have stepped in and just done a little, not a complete stoppage, but given him a minute with the doctor to come in just to wipe his face and ask him. They do this a lot of the time, to have a little conversation, but to make sure he's okay and make sure he's safe, and also give him a little bit of recovery time while they wipe his face. So, you okay to continue? You all good? Okay, fight, continue. Just to give him that 30 seconds, just to make sure he's okay. Also gives that chance for the coach to really rethink, is this okay? Should I be stepping in as well? Tough call for Matt. I don't blame him for not throwing in the white towel, but I'm sure he was thinking about it.
I think there's always that question that if you bring the doctor in, it's going to stop. And for the athlete's point of view, it looks really bad for the judges. Like, you know, if you're like, they had to bring the doctor in for me. Now the judges are going to be like, you're getting beaten so bad that the doctor had to check you out.
I think in this case, the fighter's enthusiasm was what made the difference. You know, the fighter,
body language.
Yeah, he didn't step back. He if you could take the blood out of the equation, there was nothing wrong with that fight.
I still keep poker face to the death.
I mean, there was not one.
He jabbed me in the nose, just on the nose.
Yeah,
I'm probably going to cry. And I'm going to show you some pain that I'm feeling. It's very hard not to.
Yeah, he didn't wince once, did he? Like, that was just an incredible display of toughness.
He copped at one point. He got turned around a little bit. I think he copped something, and it pushed his head down. And then Temesi came with a high kick, landed it flush. I think that's what did it on the nose.
Right, yeah.
Cleanest head kick to a guy who was literally coming forward to it with his head down. Head kick straight into the nose. It was brutal. At that point, I thought it was over, but no, it just begun.
Yeah, yeah.
And in that moment, like, the crowd erupts, and it must be hard for the athletes to understand what's going on, because you've just been belted and then you've got this noise. And is that me thinking? Is this me going out? Is this what's going on? Because there's the sensory overload to the brain at that point. And that's why, you know, a lot of the fighters that may have had endured a loss early on in their career, and they're now, after a few more fights, much more seasons, much more comfortable in the ring because they're used to that noise and and maybe something that fighters that have come out of the last couple of years with not a lot of fights under their belt because of COVID and the whole range of of reasons that are out there at the moment are at a disadvantage at an international level because fighting there's no comparison to fighting in front of a big crowd when the noise takes over and you can't hear yourself think. And a moment where you really need to be present more than ever.
I think, and Joe Brown was representative of this as well. From February fight, he wasn't able to hear his coach.
Wow.
He went 3 rounds, couldn't hear Ike, and Ike's yelling, really frustrated, yelling and screaming. You're thinking, surely he can hear me, but I think it's exactly as you said. There's so much going on. You got a guy wanting to kill you. To focus on this and be calm in that moment. And Joe Brown, this time, I think Ike actually said and chatted about it later. Man, in the back room after the fight, he said, your ability to listen and be composed in this one, 100% improvement for your last one. That's why you won.
Wow.
So that's what Ike said. Next one.
Yeah, final fight of the evening. So
the last one,
the main event. So we did get a little bit into David Butt's story and leading into this big fight. A journeyman. He's been around the game for a long, long time and had a lot of personal upheaval over recent times, which kind of led him to take on this fight for reasons that perhaps had a lot more meaning to him than most. So not only that, travelled a long way, came all the way from Tasmania in uncertain times to put himself into a position to walk away with what I believe is Isca's inaugural welterweight belt.
That thing. That thing that you get around your waist.
So
a new belt.
A new belt, So very first welterweight MMA belt. That's what I was waiting to say. So and up against Shane Triple A Mitchell on this occasion. So fighter with a great recent history and has been there or thereabouts, breaking into the big time for a couple of years now. And perhaps if it wasn't for COVID, would already find himself in the big leagues. Maybe not, but definitely been there or thereabouts for a very long time. Did this fight go as you thought it would?
Yes. I don't want to say yes because I'm not as McGregor would say, I'm not the Mystic Mac. I'm not, but I did think it would get rear naked choke first round, and it did.
And what did that say about Shane's readiness?
Dude, the fight was 2 parts. It was Shane get pushed against the cage and in a clinch position, calm as a mofo against that cage. He wasn't. It's almost like smiling with calmness, just calm as. There was no
panic.
There was no. He didn't even try and change positions, worry about anything with the wrists, grabbing a hold of things, panic. He laid a couple of elbows, easy. Was not at all in any kind of panicked situation. Now, 5 years ago, he lost to. I wrote it down here somewhere. But he lost the fight purely because of his ground game. He's lost, the 4 fights that he has lost are probably because of that. Actually, I take it away. The first fight, he got KO'd by Charles August and probably just wasn't ready. And Charles August was an absolute beast. This is a long time ago, I don't know, 11 years or something like that. But yeah, his ground game has improved that much that he was just super, super calm, way in control. Just you could see his headspace was easy. I'll take my time. And then the second part of that fight that I thought was the difference was just being calm against the fence, and then boom, here's my opportunity, big judo throw. But this judo throw into the actual finish was the slickest finish you could. There was so much that happened in about 4 seconds. So the judo throw was perfect, but as he judo throwed, was on his back and tried to get an arm around, which Mitchie was able to get his leg over and trap the arm at the same time as taking the back, and then flattened him out by sinking the hips real low. So not only was it an opportunity for the choke, but it's a choke with no ability to actually defend yourself. It was evil.
Yeah.
Very fucking
awesome.
evil.
It was awesome.
And it was slick. It happened fast. It was beautiful. Beautiful finish. Shane Mitchell, in terms of the middleweight rankings of Australasia, he's apparently, from what I've seen on the internet, ranked 4th. That's bullshit. These guys above him have been fighting bums. And by bums, I'm calling it out. I'm telling you. I mean, the guy who's number 1 fought a guy who's got a record of like 3-6. Last 6 in a row lost. What,
6 in a row.
Is that the guy you want to take to the UFC?
Yeah.
He's getting set up fights with bums.
Yeah.
Guy who's fought, 9 times and won 3, but and hasn't won for 6 years. And you're telling me that the number 1 guy who's above Shane Mitchell is fighting that kind of caliber opponent? Bullshit. Mitchie is a superstar. Right now, the spotlight's been on him for a while, but now is time for Uncle Dana to
Make the call.
Make the call. I think it's now. It's right on it. The way he finished, he wouldn't have even gone for the judo throw 5 years ago, 4 years ago. But the confidence in ground game to get that finish like he did, just slick, smooth, comfortable, confident, easy. I called it because I knew that would happen, but it happened way more beautifully than I could have expected. Yeah, proud of Shane. I love Shane, and we all love Shane, but we just wanted to see him get that next shot, take that next step.
And from what I understand, it was important to get that ISCA belt, and there was some work that had been going on in the background, because once you got the ISCA belt around your waist, it makes it easy to get the attention of Dana White and others. And because Shane has been there or thereabouts for a very long time now, and it just seems like just a little bit of luck his way will get the opportunity that he so deserves.
Yeah, UFC always, with these fighters, it's all about their record, and it's like, hey, if you've got a loss and it's 3-4 fights ago, or 2 fights ago, and you've won 2 in a row, we want to see more. We want to see a couple more wins before we put you on there. Unless it's a late notice and you get a big chance and whatever, we need someone, you got a better chance then. But for somebody who they want to have a future with, you've got to have a good record of wins.
What's Shane's record?
Well, this is the great talking point. So he's got 4 losses, 13 wins. Going into this one, he was 12-4. Yep. But it's very interesting to look at the 4 losses with Shane. As we spoke about before with Ike, his style of coaching and what he'll put his fighters into.
Yeah.
Some coaches are much, much more conservative and never would put Shane into some of the situations that he's been through.
Yeah. So they're trying to be strategic and keep the record nice and clean rather than give them experience.
Ike's an animal. He's like, we're going to throw you in, son.
Sink or swim.
Yeah. Dude, his second fight, I remember it, was against a guy called Charles August. Do you remember Charles August?
Only from you mentioning him a minute ago.
Charles August, if you look him up, he was like a South Australian kind of Kiwi dude, superstar striker, hands off, stone, knocked everybody out. You do not want to take a leg kick off him either. You don't go to decision with Charles August. Beast of a dude, not a ground game guy, not an MMA guy. Fought a couple of MMA fights, just because I'll finish you with my hands, and he did. But he was actually Shane. He was like a superstar, like the top of the top, and Ike put Shane Mitchell against
a young
him
Shane Mitchell,
as a young little baby face Shane in his second fight ever. 1 win and 1 and none, and Shane, fought a very respectable fight against this beast of a man, Charles August. Lost. And got his first loss, but you could very much argue that, dude, he was well outmatched in many, many ways in terms of experience and so forth. crazy fight to take. Most
Yeah.
coaches wouldn't do it, but Ike's not your usual coach.
Yeah.
He's a goer, and he's you throw him in there. Throw him in there, and it is what it is. A lot of these fighters that Shane would be competing against to get into the UFC are having padded records, such as one of the ones I didn't mention.
Some of the more
name.
highly ranked contenders.
Well, there's only 3 guys who are more highly ranked. 2 of them are New Zealanders, so they're not Aussie. So let's get rid of them.
Yeah.
There's only one other one, and this one other one has beaten Mitchie before in 2015. So 6 years ago. His name's Kit Campbell. Kit Campbell. If Shane Mitchell fought Kit Campbell now, he would absolutely dominate him. Kit Campbell only won to Shane Mitchell because of maybe he hadn't got such a great ground game in 2015. That's not the same guy at all. And by the way, Kit Campbell, yes, he beat Mitchell on the ground, but only because Mitchell made some really dumb ground game errors, things that just are mental and not physical. So you made a really dumb, bad decision. Had your coach told you some basics of this, you definitely would never, ever do that. Everyone knows that. He made some really dumb mistakes, and therefore he lost. He's not at all physically the same person, but most importantly, mentally.
Mentally, yeah.
He's not that guy.
Yeah.
So he would smash Kit Campbell easily. And that's one of his losses. Kit Campbell had a career, and he's above, apparently, Shane, from what I can see in the rankings right now.
So that's the match to make.
Yeah, it's just like crazy.
This time.
So, of course, I'm biased. But Shane is the number 1 middleweight in Australia.
Well, he's got the belt around his waist right now from Iska, so hopefully that's the stepping stone that he needs to make that final leap into the big leagues. And not only that, but a champion bloke, a fantastic guy. And I can honestly say that amongst the community of fighters that took place in the event on the weekend, all but very few exception are very respectful, lovely, kind.
True.
People that were there for all the right reasons and made the event better for their presence. So, Rich, thanks so much for coming along and sharing it.
Absolute pleasure.
All of your knowledge. We'll definitely have you back. There's so much more to talk about. I mean, we want to find out more about Indian toe wrestling and so much more. So
we'll get naked next time.
you bring the lotion.
Thanks, boys. Pleasure.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know, where's the camera? There you are. Watching there at home. Ladies and gentlemen.
They had like the back of my head this whole time.
Just the whole time.
It's the better side, I tell you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us again for another episode of the Daily Combat Podcast. It's been absolutely wonderful having you with us as we went through the DFC card from last Sunday night, and of course joined by DFC commentator and MMA expert Rich Warner. So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll look forward to bringing you a whole lot more very, very soon.